Okay, good morning, everyone. Sorry we're starting so late. Seems like we're getting later every meeting here. And I believe it's the chair's fault for that, so I apologize. So thank you all for being here. Today is July 26th. It's 9:05. You're at the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. If everybody, well, I guess first, just real quick, before we do the pledge, we just want to recognize that Supervisor Graywall was unable to be at today's meeting. So there's 4 of us instead of 5, just so, just point that out. Okay, so if everybody could please stand for the pledge. And after the pledge, if you could remain standing, I'd appreciate it. And we're going to have our invocation by Pastor Dallas Jackson from Renew Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. God, thank you for this opportunity to come together. Just pray for clarity of mind and heart. Be with those who are sharing today, discussing and speaking. Will you help us be reminded to be kind? Will you help us speak with love and truth, Lord? Remember who we're representing, Lord, as we speak. Will you help us push away pride or anything that creeps in that's not of you? Thank you for the men and women who are represented here today and the decisions that will be made. And again, we just ask that through your Spirit that you remind us of who you are. Help everyone, again, just speak with clarity of what's on their heart, but in kindness and in truth. And we'll be much better for that. Remind us who our neighbors are, to be kind to them, to love them well. And this is only possible because of you. So I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Dallas. That was great. Okay. We are going to start off this morning with a presentation. August is Child Support Awareness Month in Stanislaus County. And Baljeet, come on up. Good morning, Baljeet. How are you?
Good morning.
Kyle and Lisa. How are you guys?
Good morning. Thank
Good.
you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Let's now wait for the audio and video to start. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Supervisors, CEO, County Council. It's my pleasure and honor to bring to you today our Child Support Awareness Month presentation. I'm Baljeet Atwal, as you've just mentioned, Director of the County Department of Child Support Services. With me today here are Lisa Clifton, Assistant Director, and Kyle De Jesus, Executive Manager 3 at Child Support Services. Also with me today, we have a representative sample of our employees, all who are dedicated to improving the lives of the families we serve. I ask that they please stand and be recognized at this time. Thank you. I thank all of our DCSS employees, whether here, whether at their desks, wholeheartedly for their service. Child support, as you know, is not an easy program. It is contentious. We deal with 2 things that are very personal to families: their children and their money. So, as you can imagine, our customers are rarely happy to engage with us. Still, we aim to provide the very best possible customer service. Funding is tight, yet we manage. We manage by constantly analyzing processes and realizing efficiencies where possible. Just regarding the cost effectiveness, last fiscal year, our cost effectiveness was $4.35. That is to say, for every dollar that we spent on the program, we collected $4.35. So to share outcomes, and not to be too boring and liven this presentation a little, we've created a short video for you. So, just as this ends, first of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Fallon Rico, who's the confidential assistant in our department. She couldn't be here today, but she basically captured my vision for this presentation in this video. I wish we could end on the video, but we can't. It's quite cute and uplifting as far as I'm concerned. But if I could have your attention for just a few more minutes, I'd like to do two things. One is I'd like to share a few highlights of this video, and second, I'd like to speak about where the program is heading in the future. So firstly, I can't emphasize enough this screen. I'm emphasizing that child support is part of the safety net. Historically, it has not been recognized as part of the safety net. It's really important. Look at these numbers, right? It's a safe part of the safety net, especially for low-income families. As this chart shows, and again, I've got to thank HSA and CSA employees, our colleagues there, who helped provide some of the most up-to-date data. We were bugging them, and we apologize for asking last-minute questions. But thank you to them. As this chart shows, in terms of the number of children that were served in our county, child support is right there after Medi-Cal, CalFresh, and WIC, helping lift families out of poverty. Excuse me. And then performance and customer service drive this department, collecting $62.8 million and establishing parentage for at least 3,629 children just in the last year is, to me, performance. The quotes that you read in the video, as far as customer service goes, were received via regular customer service surveys. It's not like we deliberately picked on people who knew we were happy with, right? They were just regular routine customer service surveys. I often describe this department as being caring, innovative, goals-focused and dedicated. I'm really happy to see that customers are actually seeing and recognizing and speaking to that caring piece also. And the last picture that was sent to us by a mom, who, by the way, consented to the use of the photo, the quote, and the name of the child, quoted is her message to this department. Jackson here represents the work, why we do the work that we do, and he further motivates us to do even better. In concluding, let's look ahead to the program. There's 4 things that I'd like to highlight. Firstly, to support anti-poverty and safety net efforts, this year's state budget proposed that child support that is collected traditionally, that has helped to recover public assistance costs, be now redirected to families. That's a big one. Due to the intricacies of how those counties are funded and how they will be backfilled, the trailer bill language didn't get finalized when the budget passed in June. What we're hearing is that the trailer bill language is going to get finalized in August after the legislators recess. We expect that this pass-through for families who, again, were previously on aid will be effective January 2023. There's also trailer bill language for redirecting payments to families that are currently on assistance. That would become effective in January 2024, or as the language says, when automation becomes available. Because we do have an interface with CSA where we get all those updates as to grant amounts. I know I'm getting technical. I'm more than happy to have those discussions, especially as trailer bill language actually gets finalized with you. When implemented, the bottom line is when these changes get implemented, it equals to more money directly to families and less being recovered by the government. And it's only on government, just want to emphasize this, it's not in my script, it's only on government-owed arrears, government-owed child support. Okay, secondly, AB 135 requires local child support agencies to cease enforcement of child support arrears and otherwise past due amounts owed to the government again, that either the State Department or the local child support agencies have determined to be uncollectible. The effective date for this is also January 1st, 2023. The goal of this statute is to unburden low-income obligors from uncollectible debt that is owed to the government. As a side note, a debt compromise program already exists, but it's a voluntary program right now, and it requires a repayment. There's a payment requirement. Again, it's voluntary. Now this is the legislature trying to get more money to families or to relieve some of that debt on low-income families. Thirdly, the Federal Flexibility, Efficiency and Modernization Rule, which has been around since 2016. It's also known as the Federal Final Rule in Child Support, also known as FEM in our circles. That's on our radar too. Back in 2016, the federal rule recommended changes to the program, such as a guideline calculation study, case closure rules, some low-income adjustments, contempt. All those were designed to create, as the name suggests, greater flexibility in the program and efficiency. The legislation needs to be created in order to implement those federal guidelines. And right now, the state and the Child Support Directors Association are working closely on formulating the needed legislation. So that's coming up. And then fourthly, lastly, but equally, if not more importantly, funding remains an issue, as you all know. Yes, we have received, with all the support we got and all the advocating we did get $1 million last year. We received another $1 million this year. As you all know, costs of doing business are increasing. So the original intent of that funding, which was to hire caseworkers, is not going to materialize right now. But it remains an issue. Gaps remain in the amount of service we are able to provide due to limited staffing. We're going to continue to be creative, and I'm hopeful that we can develop partnerships to further improve our reach to parents. Sorry. So that's the end of that right now. I'm happy to hear your thoughts and answer questions. And I know there was a bit of data in there that you may want to ask questions about too. So thank you.
Thank you, Baljeet. Okay, any questions for Baljeet?
So on the extra funding, because you were flat funded for so many years, and then there was a 2 or 3 year bump?
There was a 3-year bump.
3-year bump.
But it ended up being 4 years,
Okay.
and this was our last year, because during the pandemic, they pulled back what they said we would receive. Stanislaus, of that $56 million, was set to receive $1 million every year, and it was $56 million per year for statewide. We received $1 million, I can't even remember the dates now, but the second $1 million came in last year, and the third $1 million is for this upcoming year.
And then you have to start fighting for the funding again, because it's not evergreen.
Yes,
right?
we are working on, I was part of those work groups with the association when we worked on a level of effort study and the methodology, and now we are working on revisiting, reanalyzing that methodology. So yeah, the fight begins again. We've just got to educate the legislature also, as you know, with the increases coming in. That's another, it's going about $650,000 worth of regular costs, right? COLA increases that will eat into that $1 million. So it's not really helping as much as we thought it would.
Yeah. The cost of business, you're right. Tell the workers, we've always talked about this being one of the most efficient, the best uses of money. Every dollar spent was $2 to $3 in return. Parents get divorces. There are all kinds of reasons why family units break up, and they do have a responsibility, and because the kids are the ones that are harmed. And so you're doing, as our chairman always says, the Lord's work. This is great what you do. We appreciate it. And we'll go up and we'll stand side by side with you and go fight for more funding, because it's a great program.
I appreciate the continued support.
Thanks, Vito. Buck?
Baljeet and team, thank you for what you do, working on behalf of children and parents. The numbers are just sobering, and you do a great job at a very tough job. Thank you very much for what you do.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to come down with our resolution.
Okay, thank you. There's another sheet that we provided that just came hot off the presses from the state last night, so I didn't speak about it, but it's that green sheet with additional infographics on. Thank you.
Okay, so this is our resolution, our standard resolution that we hand out to you guys here on behalf of Child Support Awareness Month. And the numbers, I'm going to set this here. The numbers, we talk about the numbers, that's our thing always, right, is the return on investment that you guys do. And it is amazing what you accomplish and how important it is. But the thing that I always like to harp on, and I go back and we talked about this at our visioning, is the potential that you guys have to get parents back involved in the kids' lives. Yeah, it's one thing, it's very important that we get the dollars, right, that we get the money to the families to help them take care of these kids. But I would say 10 times more important than the money, and I'm the accountant, I'm not supposed to say that, right? But more important than the money is the efforts that you guys can make to possibly get a dad or a mom back involved in that child's life, because that'll serve and provide the return on investment from that is just immeasurable. So we're so proud of what you guys do. And I know that all of you, it's a tough job and you work very hard at it, but we very much appreciate everything that you do. That's why we're doing this, the Child Support Awareness Month. And thank you guys very much for your efforts and continued, and you know we're here to help you with whatever we can. So thank you very much. So I think you guys want to do one more presentation, right, Lisa?
Oh, we'll just share.
Okay, great.
Thank you to the board for all of your support. I'd like to introduce Angela Gayona and thank her for putting together our Kids Connect event, and she's going to share some words.
Yes, so as Beljeeb mentioned, August is Child Support Awareness Month, and we're hosting our 4th annual Kids Connect Community Celebration. So this is going to be a fun event. It's a free community event for anyone and everyone. It's going to be Friday, August 12th at Mancini Bowl in Graceta Park here locally, 4 to 7 p.m. We're doing a backpack giveaway. We're doing raffle prizes and just entertainment and fun for the whole family. So we hope to see you there. Grab a flyer on your way out, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Let's take a picture. Let's all get up here. We'll do a picture. You guys come on down.
Come on, get closer. Get close.
You might block my shirt.
He's going to be in the front.
We should have worked on this before.
Yeah, sorry, we should have rehearsed it.
Okay, thank you guys very much. We're going to move on now to our public comment portion of the meeting, and this is for everybody who would like to come up and make a comment for 5 minutes on any subject that's not on the agenda. There'll be opportunities for you to talk about things on the agenda, but this is for anything that's not on the agenda. I have a bunch of cards here, public comment forms here, and even if you didn't fill one of these out, you can still come up and speak after we've gone through all of these. So, okay, we're going to start off with Mr. Monteroso. Good morning, Joseph. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm good.
Have you pull that mic over closer to you, Joe? Just to, there we go.
How's that?
Perfect. That's perfect.
I brought you a small package today. You saw that a young man got killed on Sunday in a ditch with a description of the ditch and the road, which is identical to our situation. I'm not sure what we're waiting for about getting this road closed. I'm not going to talk to you about the legal aspects of it. My case will go on until it's resolved. But I want to point out to you that I've asked you a million times why this road is so important. Well, apparently there's a relationship between one of your brothers up here with a neighbor that has a small section that is adjacent to the road. Promises were made to them to make this road public. But before that could happen, Mr. Conduit had to enlist the help of Mr. Lehman to change all of his views and all of the county's views that it is a private road to a public road, and to find a way to prove that. Well, they went back 83 years and found a card that said they may have graded the road 83 years ago. The road has never been accepted by the county. You know this. It has been rejected at least twice that we know of. It is not public. It is private property. We should handle it the way Mr. Lehman originally wrote, that it is a private matter among the neighbors. And I think we can take care of it ourselves. But we really need you to butt out and let us take care of it. Are we going to wait, according to Mr. Lehman's email, that we'll wait until somebody gets hurt or dies and we'll let the court decide who's at fault? That's his words. Is that what we want to do? I mean, you sit there and you congratulate all these people on the wonderful things they're doing, and I have been letting you know for 8 months we have a serious emergency issue on this little dirt road. And you do nothing. You do nothing. We really need to gate it off. I am ready, willing, and able to do that. It is a nothing road. If promises were made, they need to be broken and told why. Am I getting through to anybody? No. I don't really understand why you have these 5 minutes if you just listen and look up in the air and act like you don't hear it at all. And it's a problem for us. Not for you because you don't live there, but it's a problem for us. And I'm addressing everything to you, Mr. Chairman, because you told me to do so. Fine, I'll do that. But what are we going to do about it? Is anything going to be done about it? Every single day is one day closer to somebody getting hurt or killed. Look at the news release. It's from the Modesto Bee. None of this has been made up. It's all records. All of the things I'm telling you are all on the internet, on the face pages of Mr. Conduit and Mr. Lehman. All of it is right there to be read. One last thing. Some time back, a neighbor, Michelle Burke, needed help to get her son into the fire department. You've been in the fire department for, 36 years. And you did a good job. And I'm surprised we're here today discussing this. But apparently he couldn't get in because of his police record, which is on the internet. Again, it's all there. It had to be adjusted so that they were not felonies, but misdemeanors. Apparently the fire department can accept misdemeanors. Well, he got in. Now, I guess Mr. Conduit was called to produce another favor or to see what influence he could extend over me. Bad decision. Bad decision. I'm going to see it through, no matter what it takes. But guys, it's not my war. It's what needs to be done and what's right. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Mr. Monterosso. Okay, next up we have Sebastian Jones.
That was quick.
Sebastian, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I thought I was going to be called late on, I guess. Get myself together here. Well, once again, we're back here again. Coming before you with the same message over and over. Seems like it's nothing getting done. I was looking at this paper and all the approval that some of you are going to be making today, and I like to see the UDW on this paper. It's time, like I keep speaking, it's time to move. What are you waiting on? What is it? I know you got a caseload, but we deserve a cost of living raise. Why put us on hold? Why? You see what they're doing all over the United States. They're giving the people cost of living. $7, gas, food, rent. I don't even know why you guys sitting on this. You're here to represent the people in the best interest. And what is the best interest? Cost of living raise. I hate to say this over and over, but you guys got a cost of living raise. So what's the difference in the people that's doing labor and showing love to patients and different things? It's not fair. You guys gonna have to dig in your heart and look at it. Your paycheck is bigger. I was here 2 years ago speaking on another group. This doesn't make any sense. You guys go to the pumps, you know what you're paying. You're not paying like you're in Texas, $4 a gallon. Well, $3.89 now. I was just at McDonald's to give my grandson a Happy Meal, and I noticed a sign up there. They was hiring, and it's not for a manager position. It's just for a regular worker, $17.50. I said $17.50, and all they doing is pushing buttons like a assembly line hamburger just come out. Just push a button, just put the mayonnaise and mustard on there, and that's it. Wrap it up. Throw a couple of 10 French fries in a little container. $17.50. And here we are, just about every Tuesday, asking for a cost of living wage. When can we, well, the bottom line, when can we get this on the agenda? What's the hold up? You got all these other people up here you finna approve, but they in your organizations and stuff. You finna approve some money here and there. Well, why don't y'all decide to put this on the agenda and talk to the main negotiation here and find out what you can do instead of having all these people down here early in the morning. They got patients they got to get to. Down here at Aston, it shouldn't even be like that. It is what's right. And what is right? Cost of living raise. It's going to happen, so you might as well just go ahead and make it happen today, tomorrow, this week. We shouldn't have to be down here patiently at your mercy. No, I don't believe in that. I believe in right. Now come on, don't y'all sit up there. Y'all know Sebastian. Don't sit up there and have these people doing this. I thank you for your time.
Okay. Thanks, Sebastian.
I ask you guys, take this in consideration and let's do what's right. Quit having us come down here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Gwen Bird. Gwen Bird. Gwen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing fine. God bless you.
Bless you
So
too.
my name is Gwen Bird, and I'm an IHS provider in Patterson. So I take care of my brother who lives with me. So once again, we are here, as Mr. Sebastian has said. As we've mentioned several times now, an audit of the IHSS program here in the Stanislaus County shows that nearly 500,000 hours of IHSS cares are going unmet in our county. So yes, why is this program in a crisis? Two major problems is unmet need due to a lack of IHS providers in the county. And what's causing this lack is devaluing the workforce by not funding it properly. So, IHS providers make close to minimum wage. And despite the critical work we perform, we are among the lowest paid workers in the county when costs everywhere are skyrocketing. Gas, food, everything is just going up, 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 but our wages are staying very low. And we love taking care of people. That's why we're up here asking for a wage increase. I keep having this one gentleman call me, even though I told the office, do not call me because I live in Patterson. Most of the clients are in Modesto. It don't make sense for me to drive out to Modesto for a 3-hour client. So I tell them, please don't call me because it's almost like working for free. To drive out here for 3 hours with the gas and stuff, it takes $90 to fill up my car. And after I do that for a week or so, that gas is gone. So I don't work for free. So we're asking for a raise increase. Okay, so since you don't pay this workforce a living wage, we can't recruit people and retain the caregiver necessary to meet the needs of our constituents. So your unwillingness to invest in the IHS providers means denying care to our most vulnerable Stanislaus County residents when they need it most. Without a real wage increase that covers the rising cost of living, we will not be able to meet their needs. So once again, we ask if you would take that in consideration. It can be you one day. Nothing is promised. Tomorrow is not promised. The next minute is not promised. So I ask, take a look at it. Put yourself in that situation. What if it was you and you're on the phone? Like I said, the gentleman called me, Gwen, I need help. I can't keep nobody. And I'm like, sorry, I want to help, but I can't. And that's the way it is with our IHS care providers. We want to help, but we can't because it's not feasible. We don't make enough money. We got millions of people out there, well not millions, but there's a lot of people out there just calling, I need help, I need help. We are just as important as the doctors and the nurses because we are going into people's homes. We are the one that's keeping them out of the hospital. We are the one that's keeping them out of the nursing home because they want to stay in their home. So they need people like us to come in and care for them to keep them out of the nursing home. And we have a heart and we try our best. We sacrifice our life going into different ones' homes with this virus going around. We're sacrificing, going into their home, helping them so they can be comfortable in their own home. So just take it to heart. It can be you one day, and you would want someone to come in and help you with love and care and understanding, and not just trying to come and get a paycheck. We care about our clients, and we want you to care by giving us a living wage increase. And with all that being said, so we're doing our job to ensure that the seniors and the people with disability have their care they need. So I thank you for your time, and now is your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Gwen. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up, we have Larry Moss. Larry Moss. Larry, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for letting me come up and speak. I'll be real brief. It's about fireworks, legal and illegal. I know they're important for a lot of reasons, but they're also very damaging to a lot of our environment, and I appreciate talking to you the other day about this. The air quality, the damage that they do, the need for the kids and their programs to make money with these fireworks. I can appreciate the kids needing a way to do that. And I hope to lend my support to whoever is also interested in this, to come up with different ideas for the safety of our kids and our environment. And I know Tuolumne County has in the past outlawed fireworks for good reason. Regionally, there's a big difference. But we still have we have similar damages that we have to, that somebody has to pay for. And I know someone put up $20,000 for our fireworks display in the past out at what used to be Del Webb Field. It just seems like that money could be better spent, but still looking for an idea of how to entertain people for our specific holidays, New Year's, 4th of July, Memorial Day. And I appreciate all of those holidays. But it just seems like we could look for other ideas that are a little bit more safer on the environment and that kind of stuff. So you guys have my number. If you know somebody that I can lend my support to, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Okay. Next up, I have Angela Manini. Oh, sorry.
Good morning, and thanks for having us here to speak publicly. So I have a lot of concerns in regards to the children that are back in masks at our schools. The science does not match what's happening, and it's really sad to see that happening. I'm I know that we got millions of dollars in coronavirus funds in 2020. I can't believe that you guys can't find money for these people to take care of these people. Vaccine injuries and the issues with the vaccines has just been going on and on and on, and I don't understand why we're still even having this conversation, but I get it because Big Pharma runs everything, apparently. And I have a question in regards to, that's right, I can't answer any of my questions. The SB 871, taking the rights away from individuals and our children, the bill shows how much money our Big Pharma has. Why is it that we have to bow down to these people? I mean, there's religious exemptions, there's medical exemptions, and people are losing their livelihoods over this. Their jobs, their homes, people are leaving this state, thousands of people. You guys really need to get it together. Vote responsibly.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Angela. Okay, that's the last speaker card I have. I have a couple for specific items here, but last one, is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak before? Just kind of line up here, guys, and we'll take you one at a time here. Come on up, Pastor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to the board here, Pastor Tim Benefield from over in Patterson. And I'll just keep it short. I know this is not on the agenda, and I know there's only limited things you can do here. But I'm very heavy-hearted to see this wave of requirements working their way back to, especially right now, our school systems, but really across all different places, workplaces, and all of that. There's some things that are just inescapable facts. Children are at almost zero risk for getting COVID, and when they do get it, it's very mild. They literally are in more danger of dying in a car wreck on the way to school than they are of dying from any COVID that they catch at school. Studies abound. I struggle because I want to give you specific examples, but you just get into minutia real quickly that's just boring right at this stage and in this setting. but studies are everywhere that talk about the great harm that has come to children throughout these last couple years, being forced to wear masks. I even have a relative who is heavily involved in the education system who tends to kind of be on the train of all of the different requirements and all that. But even she had to acknowledge her little 3 or 4-year-old had some severe slowing down of her speech right as the time she's learning words, learning to talk because of being in masks, the teacher she's around being in masks. It's been extremely harmful to our children, and there's just no denying it if you're honest and look at the science at all. And then that's not to even mention, of course, the requirement for the vaccination, and I say that word loosely because it's really not a vaccination. They're just calling it that. But the fact of the matter is that there are studies abounding on that, of the many people who have suffered harms. They quit putting these numbers out just to, I guess, cover them up. But the places where these things can be reported, the adverse reactions to the vaccine, they've quit putting a lot of those numbers out there. And I drove by one of the high schools in Modesto the other day, and a big old sign, no shot, no school. Be wise, be immunized. And I thought, man, I was at the same time angry, sad, disheartened, feeling helpless because kids are being forced by people who should know better to take something in their body that really doesn't do them much of anything and does have the strong potential of harm. There are studies all over the place of heart problems, especially for young boys who have this disease, who get the shot. There are news reports all over the place of healthy people just dropping dead, athletes all over the world. I know there is an attempt to kind of hide and gloss over these things by the tech companies who don't want you to read these things, but it's out there, it's real, it's true. And so I know that you can't make the decision for the school, but what I am asking, if you would consider putting out a resolution that would make masks optional, and there may be some people that for their situation masks might seem to make sense if they're going home to an elderly grandmother or something like that, that it might make sense for them. But for the vast majority of kids, it's just absolutely unnecessary, and even worse than that, it's cruel, it's harmful. And if you could put out some type of resolution or whatever it is that you can do to give the school board and the schools a little bit of room to maneuver as they would like, I think it could be very helpful. And just make a statement. Just seems like everywhere we go, we are being forced to just fall in line or bear the consequences, no matter what the science says, no matter what logic says, and no matter of any type of trampling all over personal freedom that we believe is our birthright here in America, and for which we're grateful, and we don't want to lose it, a little bit at a time or all at once. And so I'm just asking you to consider to put out a resolution or some type of statement that would make these things optional, or give them the opportunity to make it optional in the schools, so that if parents do not want their children to have to do that, they would have the freedom to say no without paying the consequences of their children being sent home or isolated or shamed. There's no reason for that, and I hate so much seeing this rise up again. COVID's not going away. It's, of course, a real virus. I've had it. It's not going away. So we might as well quit acting every time cases rise a little bit like we've got this worldwide emergency on us, because it really is no such thing if you look at the science and the like. Thank you.
Thanks, Pastor. Okay. Anybody else like to come up? Come on up. Good morning. How are you?
Gentlemen, I'm fine. My name is Christy Benoit, and I'm here with UDW. I work part-time with UDW, well, not with UDW, IHSS, but I also have to supplement my income, so I do go to the prisons. I work for the state prisons, and I pick up biohazard as well as pharmaceutical waste to supplement my income, because I don't get paid that much with IHSS. And I started IHSS because I was in transition from another job, but I don't let it go because I help the elderly. In fact, I help one gentleman for free because, I can't tell him, hey, I don't get paid. You can't tell someone that's 80, hey, you're not getting any food, you're not getting any help, because there's a lot of, legalities and I don't get paid for it. So I just go in and I pretend like I get paid, and I pretend I do a payroll sheet, which I don't. I do help an elderly lady, and they do need a wage increase, because I could go back and work full-time with banking, because finance is my major, that's what I went to college for, and I could make a boatload of money and not have to touch these people's lives. But I do touch their lives, and I can't just walk away. And when I'm long gone, the people behind me are going to need an increase in wages, and so that's why I'm here. That's it. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, Christy. You too. Thank you. Okay. Deborah, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good to see you.
My name is Deborah Harper. I currently am trying to function throughout Stanislaus County. On 7/7, there was an exclamation point to a lot of defamation and false information. It was previously backed up on 519, a couple of other areas with false information, but the exclamation was on 7/7, where I was falsely arrested and put in county jail for something I didn't do. Too many calls. For years, people have used the public venues to target me, to defame me, to make me look like I'm somebody that I'm not. And it's very, very distraught right now. I've got 2 false arrests. 519, 7/7. 519 covered the sphere of influence with Modesto Police Department, where the post office, Kearney Post Office. I've had a post office box for years. For years and years, I've had this post office box. It went from downtown to Kearney. They get to do all the wrong things from 511 to 519. They get to do all the wrong things. Oh, you should do this. You should do that. It's like, if you focus on functioning, there would not be an issue. On 7/7, if you focus on functioning, there would not be an issue. I was physically injured on 7/7 with the handcuffs being too tight. The medic put the cuff for the pulse rate in the wrong place because he knew what was going on. My pulse rate was 193. It wasn't my pulse rate. I have life forms, physical abnormalities degenerating my body, inside my body. That was the physical abnormality in my body. It's not a mental health symptom. It's in every x-ray. Not on the arm, because I haven't had the arm x-rayed yet, but it's about to be x-rayed. If you focus on functioning, things will function. Somebody pulled the rug out from underneath me on 7/7. 7/7. They towed my car away, took every dime I had to get the car out of, get the certificate. I had to borrow money to get the car out of tow that should never have been towed when somebody else injured me. Nobody else is responsible for their behavior anywhere on any of these false arrests. 4 of them. Starting with Robert Paris. During Robert Paris trial, the Transportation Department false Chuck Erickson. Oh yeah, sweetheart. Oakdale alumni? I'm not sure. Called the police on me when he asked me to get back on the empty bus. He harassed me on an empty bus. I've been kicked off the buses. I peacefully and reasonably function. Exclamation point at 7/7, pulling the rug out from underneath me, taking every dime I have to function over something I didn't do. So I have a claim in just simply for the reimbursement on the cost of the false arrest. Thank you. And as of this morning, there are no charges, but I've been told, the DA can charge me for something I didn't do. I'm not going to, discuss that with her, but I have to track it now to see if I'm being charged for something I didn't do, all the way up to the court date, which is not until September on one and November on the other. But I'm still requesting reimbursement for something I didn't do. You've escalated so far out of control. And it's not necessary. If you focus on functioning, things will function. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Okay, anybody else? Come on down. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning. Della Perellis again, here, not wanting to be here. This is not something I relish doing. I'm not a public speaker and I don't enjoy this at all. I'm here with UDW home care providers, and we're kind of corralled over here in a small little group. So we look like an invisible group in the community. But I guarantee you, we are not. We are from the tail end of Stanislaus County to the very north end of Stanislaus County. We're sprinkled throughout. So we remain invisible until the day we're not. And what I mean by that is when someone's loved one has a heart attack or a stroke, and the fire trucks come and the police officers come and the ambulance comes with the lights blaring and everything. Wonderful, we all want them. Then they go to the hospital and the doctors do their wonderful miracle work on them as best they can. And then they're released. They're told their loved ones, come pick up your loved one. Now we're in a panic. What do I do? Who do I call? How do I care for this person, my loved one? I have no idea how to care for someone with dementia or a heart attack or a stroke. Who do I call? And then they're given a number to call. And that's when we show up. No balloons come out of the sky, no lights blaring or nothing. We just show up. That's what I mean when I say we remain an invisible workforce in Stanislaus County. So we're Stanislaus County workers. In Modesto City, so we're Modesto City workers also. So I ask you, most everybody probably has someone who has a caregiver. Could be a wife, could be a son, could be a sister. We just don't know because they remain invisible. But we do need to eat, we do need to pay bills. So I hope you are listening to all our stories. We are part of the workforce in Stanislaus County. So I hope you're hearing us and we don't have to come back meeting after meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Della. Okay. Emerson, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Emerson Drake, a longtime resident of Stanislaus County, Modesto actually, but I think we're there. First things, I have to thank Donna Linder, the clerk recorder. I had a question regarding Modesto's legal publication regarding the Measure I coming up for the tax. Although we never always get the answers we'd like to hear, we got accurate, consistent information, and I understand she went to the county council's office as a backup, if you will. So I thank them too. I just wanted to throw it out there. You know, this group, we don't always agree, but you've been helpful many, many times. But today, my main concern is flashing back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were going through the water wars at the time. The Modesto Irrigation District wanted to sell the water to San Francisco. Many of us did not. What I found, those particular meetings, although I do go to MID quite a bit, I met so many different people that I'd never meet otherwise. John Duarte was there, he'd sit on one side, Reed Smith. Larry Bird was there, that's probably where I first met him when we were going through all that. Just a wide variety, and there wasn't no political angle to it. We're just concerned people. And that's why I'm here today, because we need your help. If you got the email that I sent this morning, and I know it was rather late, it says it's many pages, but it's only the first 8 that count. The rest are an agreement that we've talked about before actually here. I just wanted to have it documented at some point that Bill Lyons is the only man in MID's range that actually gets free water. Semi-unlimited, 20,000 acre feet a year minimum go through his property. He can pump it out for free, no issue. He's got wells along the river. So and we all know, you know better than I do, that when you have a well next to the river, you're kind of sucking at the bottom of the river, right? It's not a swimming pool that's got a hard bottom. If you put a drain down there and open the drain, you drain it out. Now, we have all kinds of water issues in our county and in our state, actually. But we have a man who's manipulated the system, sometimes through $10,000 payments to MID directors, at least one. We have another that likes to trot out there and do his drinking with Bill Lyons on a regular basis. I guess that's a big deal. I've never been invited, but I wouldn't go anyway. That's beside the point. But the thing is, he's turned around and they've manipulated the rules so well that he can pump water from those wells and sell it outside Modesto's basin. Now, the Modesto Basin, hydrologists tell us, runs at about 100,000 negative acre feet a year of water. We're at a deficit. We continue to be at that deficit. But this man fires up his pumps and he can sell water to Del Puerto Water District. 10,000 acre feet at a shot. Now, it's always fun. MID charges, I think it's $16.45 an acre foot to farmers. TID charges closer to 60 because the cost is closer to 60 than it is from 6 to 16. But he can pump it, sell it, and then last year and this year, it looks like he's going to make about $8.5 million selling water out of the district that we all, the entire county or the vast majority of it, said, no way. We will not accept that. And at the time, he had 3 directors in his pocket. He's got 3 there now. One of them who decided not to run again, Paul Warden, changed his mind and said, no, I'm not going to do this, and voted against it. And we were able to stop the San Francisco water steal. But now it's kind of quiet. I won't call it clandestine. When you talk to people about MID, and unless they just got an electric bill, their eyes glaze over. And by the way, MID's in closed session this morning because, of course, they got successfully sued because they take money from the electric side and put it on the water side. The bigger travesty is actually that we subsidize some of our electric so much, it's almost $8 million a year to gallon a day. You know, when you sell electricity below cost, somebody's got to pay for it, right? Well, I need your help. We need to have a full-fledged EIR because I can't believe the state would allow somebody to sit and pump water, because if that's the case, let's put a lot of wells along the river and we don't care what they make us flow over the dam. We'll pump it back out and we'll send it back up there. Now, you know we can't get away with that. Bill Lyons has managed to manipulate the system so he can. The city remains quiet. There's a couple of people there that are on the take for another $10,000 each. He divides it up into 4 payments of $2,500 from his different entities, trying to dodge the rules. The Tin Cup laws don't apply anymore. Time is now to clean up politics. So we need you to stand up. Farmers, we need citizens. Everybody needs your help in demanding a full-fledged EIR so we can't continue to pump the water out of the basin. If we're going to pump water out of that river, let's recharge our aquifer. Because we can't maintain what we're doing. The state's stealing our water. Oh, but Bill Lyons gets to pump it for free, and there's nothing wrong with that. And put the money in his pocket. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, or conservative. Some things are right and some things are wrong. And I don't have to tell you which is which. I don't believe that. I think you know. We need to put obstacles up in this man's way. We need to put obstacles up to make sure our water stays in Stanislaus County. We need that water. Our farmers depend on it. They're already being short, they have to pump. Who's backfilling? No, Bill, I have to send it somewhere else. And if somebody's going to make money off that, why isn't it a water district? To ease our costs. I don't understand. I know I've gone over. I truly apologize. Gentlemen, the citizens of Stanislaus County need your help. We need you to stand up for us, because I don't think anybody else is going to. You did once before. I'm asking you to do it again. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Emerson. Corinne, how are you?
Good. Good morning, Corinne Whitlow. Please bear with me. I'm really cold this morning.
Sorry.
Basically, I'm here today because I see the COVID cases rising. I see the headlines on Modesto B. I see what San Diego Unified School District is doing by requiring their students to wear masks. And I know LA is also on the verge of imposing an indoor mask policy. So essentially, I feel the propaganda kicking up and the hamster wheel kicking into double speed here. I want to give you my perspective on this. I do not feel like we are in a health emergency where we need public health to intervene. At this point in a hospital, we know what we're dealing with, we know how to deal with it, and we have the supplies that we need to deal with it. I want to remind you that a positive COVID-19 test does not mean symptomatic illness. We're not even isolating all the patients who come into the hospital. Our doctors are critically thinking, and we're using information that we have access to determine how appropriate it is. That's what we do in healthcare. We critically think and we make decisions that are best for the patient, for the community, and for the overall system, and we're doing that. I'm not going to get into the emergency youth authorized test and the appropriateness of testing everybody, but I do want to, luckily, COVID-19, the illness itself, is milder than it originally was, and a majority of patients will just experience common cold symptoms. Because of these mentioned points, I do not believe public health response is any longer warranted. Even if it was warranted, I want to put it out there that children should never be a shield for public health. We should be shielding our children from the world, not expecting them to protect our teachers or anybody in the public. As it was already mentioned, children are not at risk for severe disease from COVID. I also want to remind you, gentlemen, that our public health presentation in January, Dr. V stated that their visualization for 2022 was to get public health out of the healthcare realm and back into the public health realm and working on prevention and moving people away from the cliff. This was that stick figure that they referred to a couple times. I also want you guys to know that a rise in COVID cases and deaths is not preventing the hospitals from profiting. It is time for public health to step back in their intended role. In the beginning, when we were wearing shoe covers over our heads, when I had to personally buy KN95s for my staff because we were rationing N95 masks, and when we weren't sure if we were going to have enough ventilators, we did need public health assistance. But now our hospitals are okay. We know what to do and we have the means to do them. For example, Kaiser made $8.1 billion in 2021. Up from the $6.4 billion the year before. Tenet's annual profit in 2021 more than doubled from 2020. And they plan to retire 700, oh, I didn't write million or billion here. They plan to retire a lot of money that they have in debt. Sutter's revenue in 2021 was $14.2 billion, which is a $1 billion increase from the previous year. My point is we have to get off this hamster wheel. We are no longer in a state of emergency in our county. I see how things are going throughout California, and I'm just asking you to be aware of those things, listen to your community, but mostly help us protect our children. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Peters. Unfortunately, Manny isn't here, but I wanted to start off by thanking him and Buck for actually answering my emails from the beginning of last week. And they aren't even my supervisors. That shows to me that they care about the citizens of the county, not just the ones they represent. But this is the third time that I've sent an email to you, Vito, without a response, and you're my supervisor. And that's just frustrating because I'm fighting back at the city level, at the county level, and at the state level, and to get the same response from you as I do other people that should be representing us is very frustrating. I'm not asking to get the answers that I want or anything like that, but just to hey, I see your email, we're talking about it, we're looking over it, thanks. Something.
Sorry, I just got to get you to direct your questions to me. I'm sorry, Courtney. Okay, sorry.
So as constituents, you should always be listening to us, even if you don't have the answer that we want to hear, at least give some sort of response. If you don't want to listen to us, then why are you sitting in the position that you are? We're fed up with government officials not being accountable. I don't want to run. I'd much rather spend my time with my 2-year-old daughter. But at the same time, if you guys aren't going to listen to us, we will run. Not just for county, not just for city, not just for the school boards or the state. We'll run for everything. I know multiple people out there who are willing to run because they're fed up with the way things are going. And it's not just for one person, it's for every single person up here. And it seems like you guys don't want to actually listen. Look at the meetings. It's always the same exact people talking about the same things over and over. It's time to start listening to the people of the county. You've been provided a mask resolution choice through your emails. This is what the county is asking for, and this is what our county needs. And this is what our students deserve. Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. Okay, anybody else? Good morning.
Good morning, Candace Wyrock. Chance Conda is my supervisor. And the last time I spoke to you guys, it was me asking you guys to do more than you're legally allowed to do, to take a strong stance and set the bar for the rest of the state. And so I'm here again asking you guys to do the same thing. Take a strong stance, set the bar for the rest of the state, be an example, show the rest of the counties that Stanislaus County is a county that puts our children first and their mental health and their safety first. And by putting their safety first, that's not necessarily forcing injections on them, which I feel like is the way that the state is headed. It's allowing the parents to make the choice whether it's medically accurate and profitable for them to take a certain thing or do a certain thing or wear a mask. I'm going to give a quick example of why I feel like this is so important. So you have vaccines being mandated for people to get jobs and keep jobs and potentially to eventually start going to school. And you have people with medical conditions. I have a friend whose daughter was born with a congenital heart defect and has had multiple open heart surgeries. Well, her heart doctor, sees all these types of patients that would all benefit from not getting the COVID vaccine. They would all need medical exemptions, but these doctors aren't allowed to write exemptions for all of these patients. They're only allowed to write it for a certain amount, which means technically all of those people could benefit, but if they have to pick the worst of the worst that get these exemptions. And I feel like that's not showing or choosing to put the safety of children first. And that's just one example, but it's a proof that the government controls what's in these kids' best interests instead of the parents. So obviously if my kid had a heart condition, it would be terrible for them to get a vaccine that could also injure their heart. I would want them to get a medical exemption. But if my daughter didn't have the worst case of a heart defect, she wouldn't qualify for that. So I know vaccines aren't like on the agenda and it's not a big topic right now, but the mask is the stepping stone to the vaccine. So first we're going to require masks, then we're going to require the vaccine. So I feel like it's a very slippery slope, and I'm asking you guys to just take a strong stance and to set the pace for the rest of the counties in our state. Let them know that Stanislaus County is doing something right, and we're putting parents and their children and their rights ahead of what we feel like is public health. I mean, you've heard tons of testimony today, and I'm sure we could flood your emails, which we'll avoid doing, but with studies that show that masks don't necessarily work unless kids are wearing N95s, and I don't want my kid in an N95 because she can barely breathe as it is. You put her in something that restricts her breathing, and it's just not safe. So there's so many things that I feel like we could flood you guys with, like actual raw data and information, but we're all smart enough to understand that it shouldn't be mandated for everyone. It should absolutely be Our family sat down, we made a decision, we've looked at the data, we've looked at our child's specific needs, and we've decided she is going to wear a mask to school, or we've decided she is not going to wear a mask to school. And I think if you guys send out that message to our school boards stating it should be up to the parents, I think they'll fall in line, because ultimately they're responsible to the county. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on down. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Christina. I'm not going to say very much different than what some of the ladies have already said, but I kind of just want to be here today to be a voice on that, for the board to make a mask resolution for our county. I think it's important. As you may have seen, a few counties and school districts here in California have issued a mask mandate again. When do the mandates stop? Like she said, it's really a stepping stone, and I believe that. We have been down the road of masks, and it hasn't proven to lessen the spread of COVID, especially among children. So why would we repeat the same mandate expecting a different result? My hope is that our county can lead an example by only moving forward and setting the standard of mask choice. This would send a great message to our school districts. It really would. Also to the board members who replied back to my emails stating for you're fighting my right as a parent, Buck and Chance, I just appreciate that. And I just hope that the whole board can come together and get this resolution done, because the districts are still looking to CDPH. But if Stanislaus County can set that, they are going to look to you guys and say, well, our county is not making that choice to move forward with mask mandates just as the other counties are in California. It would make a difference for our children. My daughter, who's going to be a second grader, it's her, I don't want to cry because when I think of her, her mental health is important, and masks is just not. So I just hope the board can come to that and see that. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Christina. Joni, good morning.
Hi, Joni Greep, and I wasn't going to talk, I'm sorry, but I'll just be super, super quick. I just wanted to tell you guys that it was 2 years ago this month that I saw all of your faces for the very first time, and you saw my face for the very first time, and it was over this exact topic, masking our children. And Christina, my gosh, she just got me, because it's the same reason. It's my kids. These are our kids. Holy cow. I'm actually not a person that cries. Like, I don't cry a lot in my life, so it just is weird that I cry in front of you guys often. But these are our kids. These are my kids. And hearing that Sacramento Unified School District is masking their kids, hearing that San Diego School District is masking their kids again, that LA County wants to reimplement an entire county-wide mask mandate again, it triggers us mamas. This is triggering us because our kids have been put through the ringer. And if you're a mom that is a mama bear that will do anything to protect your kids, we can't do this to them again. We will not do this to them again. And it was 2 years ago this month that I begged for your help so that my kids would not have to go to school like this. You didn't help at that time, and I understand there was so much fear of the unknown. There was so much fear of the unknown that kept being told to us, that literally was told to us from that seat over and over, month after month after month. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown. But we knew at that time, we had the data and the evidence at that time that kids were not the vectors of this disease, nor were they being hospitalized in massive numbers, nor were they being severely harmed or killed by this disease. We knew that at that time. We did. So I'm begging for your help once again, because we cannot do this again to our children. We won't. I feel like the public school system is already hemorrhaging. Enrollment's declining. Teacher morale is at an all-time low. We cannot hurt our students and our teachers like this again. So you are our governing board in this county. You are our leadership. we do look to you guys. So you've been given a mass choice resolution, a draft at least of one that Corinne and I think is good, but we're not the experts. We don't know what we're doing. We're just, we're just fighting for our kids. So I do hope that you consider it. I hope it is something that our county, that all of you can agree to really, like these women said, take a strong stand for our kids in this community. Thanks.
Thanks, Jody. Anybody else? Okay. Come on up. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep. Perfect.
My name's Arlene Smith. I am with the IHSS. I'm a provider. I'm with the union. I take care of my sister at home. And we want to up the wages to keep up with everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. Okay, anybody else for public comment? Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Hi, my name is Katrina Bucco. I am from Merced County, but I am here to support my brothers and sisters from Stanislaus County and also for the children. We don't earn that much money to live. I take care of my brother 24/7. He cannot talk, and a lot of people don't understand what he's trying to say when he is trying to make motions. We have other care providers that take care of the family members and also their neighbors. What is it going to hurt to give raises to the care providers and also for the care providers for the children? You guys get raises all the time. I mean all the time. You see it in the paper. You see it on the internet. That 25 cents, that's a slap in the face. That's just ridiculous. Some of us can't even go out of state. They say goodbye to a family member because they passed away. And that's not right because we can't afford to go. I have lost 3 family members within the last 2 months. And they're all out of state. And I'm not the only care provider who does it. We're not allowed to really go out of state because we don't make enough money for anything. And it's not right. 25 cents, that's nothing. That's not even a pinch of gas or a tiny pinch of bread. A person can't live off that. It's ridiculous. You guys probably all go out and eat in these fancy restaurants and stuff. Have your big meetings in these fancy restaurants. None of us can afford anything like that, and that's not right. We have to pay out of our, I'm going to say it, our butts for what? Just slap on the back, say, hey, good job. You're doing the exact same work as doctors and nurses. There's a lot of stuff I do, my brother, that no one in my family could ever do. I've been a care provider since I was 17 years old. I am 60 right now. I cannot even afford to retire. That's not even an option. 25 cents? That's nothing. If I don't stop, I'm going to get real mad. And trust me, I got a bad temper. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina. Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on here to our consent calendar. Thank you all for your comments. We're going to move on to our consent calendar, and I think we're going to pull item 5A6 off of consent. And I think that's it. Any other ones that we'd like to pull?
B1.
B1. Okay. Very good. Okay. So we're going to pull 5A6 and B1. Any others? Anybody else? Anybody from the audience like to pull any items from the consent? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. We'll look for a motion for everything except for 5A6 and B1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Very good. Okay, let's move on to item, which one do we want to do first? Let's go A6, 5A6. And I think we're...
What do you want? Do you want a staff report, or what do you want to do?
So I'll just kick us
I think
off.
we have
So
to
this
change
item,
the-
what you have in front of you in terms of the consent calendar has a very abbreviated version recognizing that this item was previously heard by the Board of Supervisors and passed at the prior board meeting to come back for final adoption. The uniqueness in this situation is that the original item only required a majority of the board support. This item to place the tax measure forward, and County Council can confirm this, requires a 4/5 majority of the board. So we have prepared some presentation materials if the board would like us to present any materials today, but we're also just here to answer any questions that you might have because we have presented this item previously.
You know, it'd probably be good if we could just do a brief presentation about it again, and I know we've got at least one public comment about it also, so is that okay? Everybody okay with that?
Sure, we can do that. So I'm going to ask staff to take the time to go ahead and bring up a presentation for you, and we'll go through some of these slides for you.
Maybe let's give it just a second for Buck to come back here. Hold on 1 second before you guys.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys got to do this again.
So that's okay. While we're waiting for Buck, I'll just mention that some of these slides are repeats from our prior presentation, while we've also supplemented and augmented some of the material with some of the questions that came up last time. We went ahead and included some additional material, so you're going to see both here.
Okay.
I like that it has my name right up there at the top.
I do too.
I'm glad you're here.
I was going to ask for some good attorney jokes, but we probably won't do that.
Good morning. I'm Tara Chumley. I'm your interim Parks and Recreation Director, filling in for our Cannabis Program Manager. And with me at the table is Danya Nunes, our Deputy County Counsel. It's all yours. What would you like? It's all yours, Tom. How would you like me to proceed?
Why don't you just go through the slides? I think there are some comments there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background, the County Cannabis Program. On December 5th, 2017, the Board of Supervisors adopted a conservative allowance strategy to allow commercial cannabis businesses. And the intent of the board was to provide a revenue source to fund the county's enforcement strategy to remove the numerous illegal cannabis activities in our community. Revenue from the permitted cannabis businesses continue to support this enforcement strategy. On February 12, 2019, the Board of Supervisors held the first public hearings and began to approve development agreements for commercial cannabis businesses. To date, the Board of Supervisors has approved development agreements for 26 commercial cannabis businesses, and of those are 17 active facilities, 2 that are not yet operational,
and 7 development agreements have either been canceled or terminated. So each approved business has entered into a development agreement with the county, has a term of 5 years. One of the primary components of the development agreement is the payment of the community benefit rate based on the licensed activity. The community benefit rate collected provides funding for the county program administration and enforcement of the illegal, unpermitted cannabis activities. Another component of the development agreement is the community benefit contribution, and this provides a mechanism for the industry to give back to the community. Based on several requests from approved commercial cannabis businesses, the county have the county review the fee structure. On May 3rd, the Board of Supervisors approved the termination of the collection of the community benefit contribution, and staff anticipates having developed a new program within the next few months. So the county has worked to develop a cannabis tax measure for the November 8th, 2022 ballot. And it's intended that the cannabis tax measure, if approved, would replace the community benefit rate fees as outlined in the development agreements. It is the intent to simplify the fee structure as well as assess a tax that is equitable and uniform across all operators. And if I may add, it also will decrease staff resources in the implementation of this program. Tax measure would ease the process of revising rates for cannabis operators. The current development agreement amendment process calls for the operator to first submit an amendment request and pay a minimum deposit of $2,082, schedule and hold negotiations with existing CEO staff. Then the item works through our Planning and Community Development Department in preparation and presentation to the Planning Commission review of the amendment. And then it is placed on the board agenda item calendar to set a public hearing, and there are 2 of them coming forward to you at today's meeting later.
Before you move from that slide, I remember seeing an email that talked about how long that process took for this one that's coming up.
Yes, and I have that in my presentation later today, but the amendments, the requests came through, both of them in 2021. In January 2022 and February 2022, they paid the minimum deposit fee, and that started the process. The process takes an estimated 6 months, and that was me pushing it because I'm trying to exit this position.
It's not working very well, is it?
No.
Now, that was funny.
Just so we're on the record now. Okay, so after industry analysis, staff would submit a recommendation for the Board of Supervisors to revise the rates, which would be done via a Board of Supervisors resolution. So the county retained the services of HDL companies to provide a draft cannabis tax ordinance that establishes maximum rates for each cannabis business type and allows the Board of Supervisors to set the rates by resolution. The county has requested that the ordinance allow for the county to tax cultivation based on either a gross receipt or by a square footage. Stanislaus County's current commercial cannabis community benefit rate fees are listed for you there on the screen. Staff have completed an analysis of HDL's recommended maximum rates along with the City of Modesto's maximum rates, and are recommending to include the following maximum rates in the Cannabis Tax Ordinance. And these are the same rates, I believe, that were shared with you at a previously board meeting. Based on the current development agreements, $3.8 million in revenue was generated for the county in 2021, and the recommended initial tax rate proposed by HDL is estimated to generate a total of $3.7 million in revenue for the county, and approximate decrease in revenue of a little over $100,000. And I'd just like to note that I believe these estimates or these revenue actuals are based on a calendar year and not a fiscal year, just so you know that those reportings could be different from prior reports you've received. Definitive revenue projections through the recommended tax rate are unable to be calculated at this time because future total gross revenue from existing cannabis operators is unknown. So on the screen is the proposed ballot question, which must be limited to 75 words in length. And then based on our timeline, we're on track to submit the ballot measure to the Clerk Recorder's Office by the state mandated deadline of August 12th, 2022, which is 88 days before the general election date of November 8th, 2022, and the tax rates will become effective January 1st, 2023.
So Tara, let's pause, go back to that.
Absolutely.
So Danya, you have some more specific information about the timeline and what it means with respect to whether or not, as to what it means with respect to whether or not we make it on the ballot. So can you help us understand that, what the timeline looks like?
Sure. To the next meeting that is on schedule would be August 9th. It can only be on a regular scheduled meeting, board meeting, not a special meeting. And so it would be at this meeting today to determine if this would go onto the ballot. Because we're on such a strict and statutorily required deadline and timeline with dates, we would not be able to come to another meeting should we want to amend or change anything on this ordinance as it is right now, given the deadlines that again are statutorily required, that being the deadlines for arguments for and against, which the elections office has provided as August 5th. And so as you see, those time frames would not coincide well. And the arguments for and against initially are already due by July 28th.
So I think what you're saying is that if the board desires to amend the ordinance, that we don't have time to do that.
Unfortunately, no. We're already working on a very tight and strict statutorily required deadline.
You got it. Thank you.
At the time of the 2017 November general election, there were 2 tax measures on the ballot. One was a countywide library sales tax. The other was a cannabis business tax in the city of Modesto. Both measures passed by more than 4-to-1 margin. At the 2018 November general election, there were 4 local school bond measures and 4 local cannabis business taxes on the ballot. Each of those ballot measures passed by nearly a 2-to-1 margin. At the 2020 general election, there were 4 school bond measures, a City of Waterford cannabis business tax measure, and a City of Turlock sales tax measure on the ballot. The only measure not to pass was the Waterford Unified School District school bond measure, which failed by a margin of 0.03%. And we are confident that the Stanislaus County commercial cannabis business tax measure will pass this year based on recent election results. Staff recommends that the board adopt and waive the second reading of the ordinance to establish a tax on the cannabis business activities within the unincorporated area of the county, and that you adopt a resolution calling an election for the voters of the county to consider the adoption of the ordinance and consolidating that election with the general election to be held on November 8th, 2022, and direct the clerk of the board to submit the resolution to the county register of voters. And with that, we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thanks, Tara. Okay, any questions for Tara? Okay, see none. Thank you. Okay. I do have one speaker card for this item. And I will ask Zach Trevon to come on up. Zach, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chair Withrow, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I'm Zach Trevon before you on behalf of 10 commercial cannabis operators here in the county, all of whom have endorsed the policy and memorandum opinion that we've advanced for your review. Over the last year, we've been in contact with staff and leadership of the county regarding the steep decline we're experiencing in the cannabis market statewide. During this time, we've been informed that the tax initiative before you would be coming to the forefront and carrying not only the potential for the streamlining of the administration of the county cannabis program, but also a prospect for the desperately needed financial relief necessary for our survival. As recently as the last board meeting, several of us spoke in favor of the initiative under the belief that at minimum it would not make the situation worse, and that later board action to lower rates below the stated ceilings could provide a long-term solution. However, since that meeting and conference with our cohorts, upon review of the language proposed in the initiative, we know that its passage would actually place us in a worse financial position than we currently sit, due to the tax being a levy against the gross receipts of our businesses. Furthermore, if it were to pass, which is likely if it were to be placed onto the ballot, the prospect of the board lowering rates below those stated in the tax initiative upon which voters would likely base their approval could undermine voter confidence and place yourselves in a difficult position politically. For these reasons, we strongly urge you to vote no on placing this initiative onto the ballot for November. And before I continue, I want to thank Tara, I want to thank Tom and Jody, as well as Keith Boggs, who's no longer with us, for some of the policy decisions that were made at the beginning of this program to help get us off the ground. But we are now under different market circumstances, and changes need to be made. As an alternative solution to the financial crisis the county's cannabis program now faces, we have proposed, and we humbly now ask, that you allow staff to amend all county development agreements in various respects to set a more equitable financial basis under which we may operate until such a time that a more feasible tax initiative, perhaps a county-wide solution, can be formulated and set for the long-term posterity of the industry here in the county. These 5 points, as outlined in the memorandum, and hopefully for your consideration, are as follows. 1, adjust the minimum flat fees to correlate to the percentage rates to our actual revenue, as currently the flat fees now invariably exceed those we would pay according to the revenue percentages, and base the rates on net revenues and not gross revenues. And for only activities in operation, right now we have operators paying flat fee minimums on things like manufacturing that they're not even conducting in their facilities. 2, reduce the distribution and manufacturing fee rates to 1% respectively in recognition of fees already being assessed at the production level and at the point of retail sale to encourage statewide participation in the wholesale market. Right now, as low as the margins are, with 3% on distribution, operators cannot participate in the statewide market because they'd be losing money. 3, allow for the reorganization, including changes in ownership and sale of licensed businesses to qualified buyers or assignees. This would allow us to raise capital necessary to complete facility developments and prevent the county from losing businesses currently on the brink of collapse. Next, allow for CUP amendments to add uses to maximize facility potential and new CUP hearings for existing businesses, allowing the opportunity to relocate to more ideal locations. Finally, due to the wholesale price of cannabis losing half of its value over the last year, reduce the canopy rates by 50% and base the assessment on actual size of production. And just speaking quickly to the process, there are formulas that are currently being applied, such as were applied to the 2 development agreements you're voting on, that can standardize some of these reductions. It doesn't have to take a year. This initiative has been discussed for over a year now, and it's ironic that the administrative amendments that are going to be made to the development agreements are coming at the same time that this initiative is now proposed. We are happy to pay the $2,000 and change fees for midterm solutions to these development agreements. We had these things negotiated 3 years ago, as I mentioned, and now it is not financially feasible for us to continue to operate under those terms. We're asking for your help. We appreciate your consideration, and we do sincerely appreciate the latitude that's been granted to staff to make the adjustments thus far. We just need to do a little bit more in order to keep this program rolling. And I appreciate your time and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach. Any questions for Zach? Vito.
Can I ask one? Because it looks like I had Tom pull up all the other cities, and we're trying to harmonize with Modesto. That was the intent of the the deal. And it looks like everyone has a business tax that's modeled similar to what we have. It's a tax on the business. So all, if I look correctly, actually I gotta put my glasses on, but Oakdale, Ceres, Riverbank, Waterford, and Patterson all have business taxes. Is that correct?
So I can only speak to the City of Modesto's tax. I have a client that has a retail operation in both City of Modesto and Stanislaus County. And the levy on gross receipts, such as they have in Modesto, prevents the retailers from passing that on as a cost to customers. So they just have to eat that 8%. Currently, under our development agreements, that line item can be itemized on customer receipts and passed on, so it's not such a huge impact on the businesses.
So now I'm going to ask County Council. It's the tax, the word tax, right? But couldn't they put a county-imposed community benefit fee?
Yeah, they could note it on the receipt if they so desired, if that's what they wanted to do.
We cannot do that under the City of Modesto's tax initiative. Right now, we currently do that under our development agreements.
Well, what our ordinance says, and it's similar to the City of Modesto's, is that the cannabis business tax is levied based upon business gross receipts, which I believe all the other taxes are as well, right? Every city taxes the gross receipts, right? I believe that's correct. Except for commercial cannabis cultivation or commercial industrial hemp cultivation, which shall be taxed on square footage or gross receipts. It is not a sales or use tax, a tax upon income, or a tax upon real property, and shall not be calculated or assessed as such. The cannabis business tax shall not be separately identified or otherwise specifically assessed or charged to any member, customer, patient, or caregiver. City of Modesto says the cannabis business tax under the provision of this article is not a sales or use tax and shall not be calculated or assessed as such. The cannabis business tax shall not be separately identified or otherwise specifically assessed or changed or charged to any member, customer, patient, or caregiver. So ours tracks the City of Modesto's ordinance.
Correct, and it spells that preclusion out. We can't pass that on. And in other cities we can, under other development agreements, not only these in Stanislaus County, but such as Atwater, City of Waterford, he has another retail location there. Those costs are itemized on customer receipts and passed on. As you know, we have IRS Code 280E, which prevents us from writing off our costs on our taxes, so our overhead costs are already extremely burdensome, not only for the retailers, but for all operators.
Waterford's is very similar to the City of Modesto's as well. It says the cannabis business tax is not a sales tax and shall not be assessed as such. Same language as Riverbank, Oakdale, and Ceres. They all have very similar language.
In Waterford, it's also a 6% assessment.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Zach? Okay, Zach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Emerson.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. I skipped that the last time. My question here is pretty simple. If we have the business in the county and the same business, if you will, with the same costs in the city, which one is paying more taxes? Which one is making, I don't want to say profits, which one is paying more taxes? Because the overheads are going to be the same. I'm just trying to make it identical. By the way, I tried to, on your presentation, some of those colors, just, you can't read them from out there. I thought I was, it just partially in my eyes, but hey, I had them fixed. Apparently not that well. And maybe another screen up above in the center, because I couldn't read them. But just simply, what is, if your business is in the county and that same business is in the city, what's the cost of the business by the existing rules or the rules you want to switch to? Can someone answer that?
Well, one of the purposes of the tax was to level the playing field.
Exactly.
We tried to, we looked at the tax, the cannabis taxes for all of the cities. Our consultant did, and from that review, proposed the maximum rates. So we're trying to be as level as we can with respect to the proposed rates.
Okay. For a second, I flashed back and thought I was talking to the city council because you can't get an answer from them, especially when it comes to finances. Not your response, just in general. But if you could simplify it for me, can you tell me the difference? Is $1,000?
The 8% is the same in the city of Modesto as it is for the county currently, and that's this is supposed to be a net neutral. We harmonize the rates exactly with Modesto. I think that was the intent. So the maximum rates, and you're talking about where we set the rate comes after, but right now we're currently set exactly as Modesto said.
So if we're set the same, it is a level playing field.
Yeah, but the development agreements, the problem, Emerson, is that the development agreements were originally set based on what we were told from the cannabis operations their gross was. So when there's a decline in price, there's been a decline in revenue, the development agreements are slow to react, and I think that's what really set us down this path. So they're paying more than they should be paying today. If it was 8% of gross receipts, they would have been paying less essentially each quarter.
Yes, the development agreements include a flat rate because it is a fee, not a tax. So it has a flat rate up to, or 8% of gross receipts, whichever is greater, and we have found that that flat rate has been greater.
So we need to make some adjustments then to make it a level playing. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm just making sure I understand.
Well, we may have a disagreement up here, but yes, I think that's
Well, I
that's
know
the
you're
intent.
business-oriented, no offense, and that's a good thing. You're trying to provide businesses to flourish in Modesto. Hopefully not some water thieves, but we won't go there. But I don't understand why there should be an issue. Quite honestly, I don't know haven't been following the politics close enough. But if we're trying to make it a level playing field, then we just ought to do that and move forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Emerson. Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's bring it back to us for some more discussion, comments.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate it. Assuming that this does not pass today, and just based on simple numbers and last meeting's occurrence, I assume that it probably will not. But I would like to make a recommendation similar that I made at the last meeting, where we do examine and explore the possibilities of making it more beneficial to our industry and supporting the free market and basing it on net proceeds, and that we help these businesses in a time of need in a more immediate fashion. And that's why I do think that in the near future we should consider looking at each agreement individually if we have to make it more beneficial for our industry. So I hope that the board would support that direction if possible.
Okay, thanks, Chance. Vito.
So I know we're regurgitating a lot of our thoughts, and Zach, I appreciate what you've done here. What I see on your 5 points, tax has no bearing from what I can tell on the 5 issues. It really comes back to relief. I keep using that word, but that's what it appears, being able to sell your business, reducing the rate, distribution. So I don't see it. I see this as purely equitable, and coming back to harmonizing with the city of Modesto, the maximum rates are 10% is the lowest maximum rate that's set, 15% is the high. Patterson, Waterford, Ceres, Oakdale have 15% as a maximum high. It's not what the rate is set at. I don't want the public to think that. Stanislaus County, Modesto, and Riverbank would be set at 10% if ours passed. So again, it's nothing more than a maximum. We can adjust the rates as necessary. So I see it equitable. There's a couple other things that are important. Staff time, I think that was brought up, that someone's going to pay for, and hopefully it's not the county that's going to pay for that. And we're understaffed. Tara's she's our Parks Director, acting Parks Director, and here she is sitting in front of us again, presenting cannabis. And quite frankly, development agreements, I still think they're arcane. It got us to where we needed to be, in a quicker fashion. We missed the first cycle when we were going to run the election with Modesto because of the library tax. We were afraid that it was going to harm. Modesto went ahead anyways. Both of them passed with 82%, so it didn't have any material effect. There will, because of consolidated elections, I keep reminding people, have to be every 2 years. Every one of these consolidated elections are going to have tax issues on them now because they have to be on every 2 years. I think last time I said there were 8. 4 years ago, there were 9. 2 years ago, there's at least 6 that have qualified with my conversations with Donna. So there's not going to ever be a good time to run it against other taxes. But again, it seems logical to me. I just keep coming back to the logical nature of making sure that everyone's only paying what they're supposed to be paying, not a penny more, not a penny less.
Thanks, Vito. Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not to regurgitate everything that's been spoken before, I agree with my colleagues and what they've just said, and I'll just, I think it gives us another avenue to combat our illegal grows out there in our community. Again, relieves staff time. It puts everybody on the same sheet of music. It levels the playing field, and I'll be supporting this resolution or this amendment today.
Thanks, Buck. So I guess to be regurgitating, since we all have everything we talked about last time. So I still am in a spot where I have real buyer's remorse over this whole thing. It's just something that if it was up to me, again, I wouldn't have, I would have hoped that we would have gone to be a dry county with what we're dealing with here. The amount of time we've spent, the amount of staff time that we have spent, I think 4 years ago is when we went through all the hearings. We had at least one, because I knew I was chair that year, and it was almost every meeting we had a hearing. We would fill the room with people either for or against this thing, and it just would, and I so appreciate the time staff and everybody, I know Vito, everybody has put a ton of time into this cannabis. And to have it do it all over again, I just think I wish we could have much more directed our time towards a lot of other stuff, other needs in this county besides cannabis. But here we are again, trying to figure something out for cannabis. And again, it's confusing. I mean, we're all kind of, there's questions about the whole thing with regard to our the tax measure that we've got here, as far how it's going to be applied or not applied. Anyway, and then there's the questions, of course, of I look at the amount of revenue that we think is going to be reduced, which means the amount of revenue that the industry will be reduced to have to pay. Our projection here is a very low number. I know it's very much a guess, but for all the effort and time that we're going through to put this on the ballot, and then everybody have to vote on it, and then hopefully, again, I know that there's other ballot measures that are going to be out there, tax measures, and we say that won't interfere with them and affect them, but geez, there's just a lot going on here, and a lot of time and a lot of effort that we have spent on cannabis, and I don't know that we're any better off for it. I hear what you're saying, Buck, as far as to help fight the illegal grows, but I wish if we could have gone back again. I keep wanting to go back. That's sad, but if we would have just pulled the money out of the general fund and just used that money to fund the sheriff's department to do that, and we could have done that and avoided all this. So I don't know this is making anything better at this point, and it's going on the ballot, and there's other ballot measures, tax measures on there. So I continue to still, sorry about that rant, but I still just continue to not see this as a good thing that's going to end up making a bad situation better. I just don't see this getting us there, so I continue to not support this. So.
Motion to approve A6.
Okay. We have a
Second.
motion. We have a second. Let's do a roll call, please.
District 1,
Aye.
Buck Condit. District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
No.
District 4 is absent. District 5,
Nay.
Okay. Thank you guys for all your time. It fails because we needed a 4/5 vote. Sorry for all the that we've had to go through. Again, so much appreciate everything staff has done. You guys, I know, have worked your butts off on this thing and trying to make this thing, and I so much appreciate all the work that Vito has put into this too. And we will see where we go next here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go back to parks. Poor thing.
After today. After today.
Okay, all right, so now we have 5B1 that we have also pulled, and Buck, sorry.
Yeah, I would, you know what, I'd just like to add in to have a report done a year from now to see how successful we are in doing this program. What kind of outcomes have we seen? Did we keep the employees here? Did we, draw them from other places? Just a quick synopsis of how successful that's been.
Go ahead, Jody.
So I would just, so then you want a report, just bring it back, give 1 year authority, and then we'll bring it back.
Right, exactly.
And get a report, and then I think we can go on with it. If that's okay. Is that okay, Mr. CEO?
Yeah, that sounds good. Jody?
Yeah, thank you very much, Supervisor Condit. So, yeah, we're very agreeable to, this is an administrative policy change that would just allow additional authority to the Chief Executive Officer to set initial salaries for our positions that are in a 5-step salary system. We routinely bring these matters to the Board of Supervisors. They've become very routine over this last year as the labor market has changed so rapidly over the last year or two. So at the request of many of our county departments, in order to expedite recruitments, we bring this forward. I do want to recognize, though, that the matter that's before you is actually an ordinance change, and I feel like probably the best way for us to accomplish what has been suggested, which we're very supportive of, is actually come back at the next meeting and tee this up a little bit different. So we're not changing the ordinance now, and maybe that we just request that additional authority for the next 12 months, and then 12 months from now we can come back and change the ordinance based on the results of the program. So I think I'd like to bring it back at a future meeting if that's okay.
Ideal.
That works for everybody?
Yep.
I'm looking at Tom to see if he had any other thoughts or suggestions that would make that better, but that's my
Catching
best
up here.
thinking. That's okay.
So we're just going to pull this item off.
Yeah, I think pull it off for this meeting. We'll bring it back at a future meeting without an ordinance change, and then we'll just try to get some temporary authority to work within the existing ordinance. We have many examples of that already in the personnel policies.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds like we're, okay, so we're going to pull item B1, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting.
Right.
Very good. Good?
Yep.
All right, great, thanks. Okay, we will move on to item 6, public hearings, and we're going to start off with 6.1, conduct a public hearing to consider the approval of fiscal year 22-23 assessment of county service areas 4 through 27. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Chair. This one should be fairly brief. Should I go ahead and start? Or?
Well, maybe give it a second since we've lost it.
All right. Yeah, I know. It's almost thought about, yeah, I'll put a 5-minute break for all the old people in the room like me. I just call myself old.
We need the music. We need like the
Jeopardy music.
Jeopardy music. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just something. We used to say smoke if you got them, but I don't think I can say
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, can't do that.
That's right.
One of my favorite people from Contra Costa County had a massive heart attack, and he's not doing well. His niece works for us, and just sad. He's one of my favorite people. I was on the flood control committee with him for years, almost a decade, with the County Engineers Association. I don't think he's going to be with us much longer. Mike Carlson, he was a deputy director up there, and just kind of breaks my heart, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's
Sorry to hear that.
Such a prince,
Yeah. We'll keep him in our prayers here.
for sure, please.
I went to the Veterans Advisory Committee meeting last night, and they, just a great group of individuals, men and women there, veterans, and just all the work that they do in our community, try to help with suicide issues, all kinds of things going on. It was just great to sit there and to see these guys have served the country, then here they are, still trying to serve and help their fellow veterans and get them services and get them help, and it was really just...
Who doesn't love a good sea story, right? Because they
Yeah.
have the best stories ever, veterans.
Unbelievable, yeah, they're just good guys. It just renews your faith that this is a good place. We're living in a good place.
We
It's
are.
A lot of good people out there. Okay, I think we're ready.
All right. Good morning, Chair, Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, and County Council Bose. Today I brought Farah El Shareda with me. She's a staff services analyst, and all the engineer reports she prepared. So she's been busy the last many months putting all the engineers' reports together for this. And today we're here for the public hearing to consider approval of the fiscal year 22-23 assessments for the following special districts. Next slide. The special districts we're looking at is county service areas 4 through 27, Del Rio Heights Landscape Assessment District, and the landscape and lighting districts for Bret Harte, Bystrom, Howard McCracken, Laurel, Paradise South, Riverdale, and Riverview. CSAs 16 through 27 have an approved methodology. They're formula CSAs, and prior to that, we didn't. So CSAs 4 through 12 don't have a formula built in, so we have to hold a 218 election for CSAs 4 through 12 to raise our rates. Operating budgets for the majority of the CSAs and lighting and landscaping districts are slightly increased using a 5.5% inflation rate for the ones that do have a formula. Of note, CSA 18, it's out in Oakdale. Because we annexed some more properties, their assessment goes down $571, which is good news for them. And then we did consolidate CSA 4. So we expanded CSA 4 to cover all of Salida, and we moved all the storm drainage services to that CSA. So that just talks about that. CSAs 4, 8, and 10 will remain consistent with the prior years because we'd have to hold a 218 vote to increase those. Go ahead, next slide. So here's the staff recommendations. Find that the notice of public hearing was published in compliance with Section 6066 of the Government Code. Conduct this public hearing to receive comments regarding the fiscal year 22-23 annual assessments. Set the 22-23 annual assessments. Make the engineer's reports part of the record of this proceeding, and authorize the auditor controller to add the annual assessments to the 22-23 tax roll. And if there are any people coming up, if they could tell us where you live, we can then dig out the engineer's report if they have some questions. And I thought we'd highlight a couple of the things that cost us money to do. CSA 4, that's the South Perone pump station, and then the Keys pump station, number 1. There's big pumps in these things, and parts are getting harder to find, and they're not cheap to rebuild, and it's just pumps are expensive. And so if there are no questions, I request you to open the public hearing.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave or Farah? Seeing none, okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public like to come up and comment on this? Looks like none. We'll bring it back to the board, close the public hearing. Look for a motion. Questions, comments?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Very good. Thank you.
Told you it would be quick.
That was easy.
God willing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Farrah.
Okay, next up, item 6.2, conduct a public hearing to consider adoption of the amended Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Plan, the GSP. Here we go. Rob.
Well, good morning, Honorable Board, Chairman Withrow, CEO Hayes, and Council Bose. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the recommendations to adopt the amended Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Plan, or GSP. Our groundwater manager was unable to be here today to present this information, so I am pinch hitting for her. The goal for today is to provide a brief overview of the following: the history of groundwater management in California, the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Subbasin, the Groundwater Authority, and the GSP, planned deficiencies as identified by the Department of Water Resources, amendments to address deficiencies, project updates, and recommendations. In September 2014, Governor Brown signed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, otherwise known as SGMA. The thought process behind this legislation is to provide a means to properly manage groundwater located in various basins throughout California. A good analogy to visualize a groundwater basin is to picture a bathtub full of water. And when you pull a drain out of that bathtub, obviously it's going to start to drain out. And if the goal is to keep that bathtub at a constant level, you're going to need to turn the faucet on. And that correlates to proper water stability for that system. Now, in relation to SGMA, this management is carried out by a Groundwater Sustainability Agency, or GSA. Now, a GSA is required to construct a management plan to address existing water that is entering and exiting out of that respected basin. In essence, they are creating a water budget. As most can attest, following any type of budget requires quite a bit of work. Imagine creating a budget plan that requires coordination from other individuals, other entities. It could be complex, cumbersome, and at times could be frustrating. This is what we see with the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Subbasin. There are multiple water agencies located within it, and by right, each of those water agencies can create its own water management plan, otherwise known as a GSP. And it can get confusing, but in the best interest of the constituents of the various counties that this interacts with, they decided to create a joint power authority, or JPA. Now, this JPA gave them one voice and the ability to collectively submit one water management plan. In January of 2020, this water management plan was submitted to the Department of Water Resources for review and approval. The state is allotted up to 2 years to a time frame to take to review that, and with state benchmarks, they met that, and it was almost 2 years to the day from the time that it was submitted to the time that the GSA received a response. And in that response, the state found some deficiencies. And those deficiencies are required to be corrected and adopted by July 27th, 2022. Some of the deficiencies include identification of chronic lowering of the aquifer and benchmark thresholds. This is meant as a cause and effect determination, and it's intended to be a metric which will tie water quality aspect of their plan. Another item of a deficiency is the identification of metrics used to properly assess subsidence declining water levels below historic benchmarks. This would allow GSPs, or the water plants, to analyze any potential negative impacts to critical infrastructure. I want to pause right there for a minute. And as a professional in the environmental field, we use terminology that we take for granted and that everybody might know. And the term subsidence, in this case, is going to come up again. I would like to try to give another analogy, for that. So if you picture an old building that is going to be required to be demolished, and there's specific explosive charges put at various levels of that building, and they're detonated in sequence, that building is going to start collapsing from the bottom until all the way to the top, where it all of a sudden just crumbles together like a house of cards. Subsidence in a groundwater basin, not exactly as fast, but this similar type of aspect where you have your aquifer, and as that aquifer becomes depleted, if the soil conditions are right, it'll start to slowly drop. And that dropping can have a negative impact if there's sensitive infrastructure nearby. Non-conforming use of water year type. DWR, that's the Department of Water Resources, found this use was not consistent with the intent of SGMA and could allow for unmanaged and continued lowering of groundwater levels. Now, some of the amendments that were made to make sure that our water management plan was compliant as we updated the data, the water budget, and impacts associated with climate change. We updated language to clarify the water year type, which includes 2 consecutive years of minimum threshold exceedance will be used to define the lowering of groundwater levels. Identification of critical infrastructure that could be negatively impacted by subsidence and metrics to gauge threshold exceedance. And out of anything today, I think this one, this amendment is going to be the one that's most controversial, is create an adaptive management strategy for the development and implementation needed if projected sustainability goals are not met from the project implementation, which is a reduction in groundwater use or the addition of more surface water rights. Recharge will be necessary to keep the subbasin in balance and achieve sustainability targets. Other possible scenarios, and these are just mentioned, these are not implemented, but the direction of Sacramento seems to really be pushing these. Results from the adaptive management strategy is the land fallowing, water extraction fees, land use modification, and mandatory demand reductions. And with me today, I have Faye Temez, who was Walt Ward's right hand and is our great accountant for DER, and she has a wealth of knowledge, and she's going to cover some of the projects that we have going on with this GSP.
Good morning, Chairman Withrow and Board of Supervisors. Some of the projects the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Authority will be doing, they received a $7.6 million grant to implement their groundwater sustainability plan. This funding will go towards projects focused on water efficiency, groundwater recharge, feasibility studies for alternative water supplies, and the installation of monitoring wells, with the ultimate goal to produce projects that will replace groundwater use as well as recharge groundwater supplies. A new process for evaluating, adding, modifying, and the ranking of projects that meet DWR criteria. GSP Project 20, Mobilization Recharge Opportunities, was designed by South San Joaquin Irrigation District to include similar recharge projects sub-basin-wide, and it is possible to include the Thurthall Ranch Reservoir Project and additional projects if they will meet the criteria to be put on the GSP project list. The staffing recommendations is no fiscal impact with the adoption of the groundwater sustainability plan. Existing staff will continue to oversee applicable work, approve and adopt the amended Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Sustainability Plan. These actions are consistent with the board's priority of delivering efficient public service services and infrastructure by ensuring a coordinated approach towards regional groundwater resources management.
And one other one, authorize the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Authority, its consultants, and the plant manager to take such actions as may be reasonably necessary to submit the amended Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Plan to the California Department of Water Resources by no later than July 27th, 2022, and implement the purposes of this resolution. And if not adopted, groundwater resources of the basin would be subject to regulation by the State and California Water Resource Control Board.
Okay, that's it. Very good. Thank you, guys. Any questions?
We're just such a small part of this basin that we're following more than we're leading, like in the other basins, so okay with all of these.
Very good. Thanks, Vito.
It's good to hear
Buck?
that the Three Fall Ranch project was going to be added, or it's being looked at the GSP 20.
Very good. Yeah, I guess this is a public hearing, sorry. Okay, we will go back out for the public. We'll open the public hearing. Emerson.
Morning again. Some of you are going to pay me to stay home. Got I think, a fair question. We talked about 10,000 acre feet being pumped out of the ground in the Modesto Basin and sent somewhere else. Has that been factored in here at all? Is it addressed here at all? Has it been approved? I'll stop and slow down my questions. The last one will be, has it been approved here at all? I mean, if I'm going to take, we joked once before, people don't realize how much 10,000 acre feet is. If we look at the DoubleTree over here, if we could top that off at what, 100 acre feet? Now we're talking 10,000. So, water, the height of is just a drop in the bucket by comparison. So has that been factored in? This is a question I've asked both of you or the city before, and I'm asking you now.
So I think it's not in this basin. I think it's factored in, and I would hope, as part of the Modesto groundwater sub-basin, right? Because that's where it's coming from.
But has it been approved by somebody?
Modesto groundwater sub-basin, has it been?
Yeah, I'm not prepared.
Has GSP for?
I'm being told that it's been submitted to DWR.
Okay.
It's being submitted, although it's already been pumped.
Well, the groundwater sustainability plan for the Modesto Basin was just submitted to DWR in the beginning of this year. And so we're waiting for their plan to be reviewed by DWR to see what direction that they will send us, just like they did Delta Mendota and Eastern San Joaquin.
But if we're pumping the water out and it's gone, we're not going to get it back.
So Emerson, we'll get you some answers on these things.
That sounds a lot like the city council, no offense.
No.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fair question. It's 100,000 acre feet.
Yeah.
We're not pretending. That, by the way, I'll mention it again, gentlemen, that email you got this morning from Lucas Law, the first 8 pages go directly towards that. The reason I sent it is I wanted to make sure you had a chance to see it. The other 50-some just have to do with the agreement for him to get free water. But those from 83, so it's not really. So the information you got directly affects what we're hearing here. And I honestly have to believe, from what I've just heard from them, it wasn't factored in. It hasn't been considered. I don't know how you could vote to approve something that if you know ahead of time that it hasn't been talked about and it's already been taken out of the ground. How can you vote for that? I mean, how can you approve a plan that hasn't affected anything so far? I mean, this is, you see where I'm coming from.
Yep.
And I think it's a fair question. I'd be interested to hear council say something, but that's all right. Anyway, if it hasn't been part of it, how many farmers out there want to pump 10,000 acre feet? Come on. They wouldn't be allowed to do it. Well, Trinitas, what do they call that? Maui Pona, is that the new name for that? I can't keep track. O'Loughlin's a tremendous manipulator, if you will. So I'm hearing that you'll get back to me, and that the people that are in charge of this, basically don't know if it's been considered. I just want to make sure we have all the cards on the table. No offense.
Again, I'm not familiar with Modesto. I'm on the Turlock sub-basin, but that's not, that's from what I...
That's great. Hey, Turlock charges what they're supposed, I was shocked. I thought for sure it'd be the same game as MID, but not at all. Those people take care of business. So, if I say board read, and we're at a casino, you're going to say, well, wow, what we're going to agree to doesn't seem to be what's on the board. No offense. I'll be interested to see how you vote today. And I'd be curious to find out why the people that put this together didn't know about this 10,000 acre field. The ones I asked you to conduct a full EIR for.
Okay, so just so you know, Emerson, this is essentially from the Stanislaus River to the north, the northern triangle, San Joaquin County. this is not the Modesto Basin. This has nothing to do with the Modesto Basin.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. No,
if it's sustainable groundwater, and somebody's pumping 100,000 acre feet, I think we ought to know about it.
Well, but they wouldn't include it in this basin because it would have no material effect in this basin. That's the Modesto Basin that they're going to have.
We didn't include the Modesto Basin in any of this?
No.
Subsystem?
It's
No.
just
Eastern San Joaquin.
Yeah.
This is the northern triangle, that little piece at the northern end from the Stanislaus River, essentially Woodward Reservoir area.
Pretty technical, but I'll give you, you're right, I'm not.
Yeah. So there's a great,
It's right there in the orange.
You can't see the county lines, but we're doing the
okay,
brown
okay.
up on top.
There's the basins, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just going eastern San, okay, but that's, Lions Ranch is pretty close to that. I'll leave you alone.
Okay. No, that's-
Again, I'm going to express concern about somebody pumping this kind of water out of our district. And I would hope that you do something about it. Thank you very much. And read that, okay? I didn't even throw in the I on there. Where I had the commentary. This is just straight what they wrote.
Okay, thanks, Emerson. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Any other public comment? Okay, see none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Any other comments or
Motion to approve.
questions?
I have a second, and I want to reiterate again that we're such a small part of this basin, as you can see in Stanislaus County, that we're counting on the expertise, obviously, of San Joaquin County, which is the vast majority of this. And I agree with the statement that Supervisor Condon had talked about the projects. Those are going to be the most important things going forward and trying to alleviate some of the groundwater concerns. So I second the
Motion and a second, perfect.
I think,
And-
yeah, you did second.
Yeah, and I agree too, that's a great recharge project that's going on up there that I know we're going to get a part. Hopefully get funding for that and help with that up there. And, yeah, and this is, again, eastern San Joaquin Basin. And, you know, and these things are the groundwater sustainability agencies are made up of all the folks who are involved, all the agencies that are involved in this, and putting together these groundwater sustainability plans that are taking into consideration all the factors. And then again, it's going to the state, and they will approve or disapprove in Modesto's groundwater basin's instance, if they think that it is sustainable, what's going on there. And so I have definitely some concerns with what's going on in the Modesto's groundwater basin out there, I would say. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, pass unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, we will move on now to item 6.3, right? Is that where we're at?
Yes.
6.3, conduct a public hearing to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve a rezone application. Angela.
Good afternoon, Angela
Christie.
Freitas, Planning Director. With me to present this item is Christy Dowd.
Good morning.
Hey, guys.
Presenting rezone application PLN 2021-0112, Top Shelf Mega Storage. And this is a request to rezone a 10-acre parcel from Planned Development, or PD 261, to a new planned development to allow for development of a recreational or RV storage facility in 2 phases. The project site is located at 4401 West Barnhart Road on the northeast corner of West Barnhart Road and North Golden State Boulevard in the community of Keys. The site has a general plan designation of planned development, and the southwest corner of the site is designated highway commercial in the Keys Community Plan. And the site currently has a zoning designation of planned development 261. Vacant and agricultural lands surround the site to the east and north, State Route 99 and highway commercial and trucking uses to the west. Fresh Point, a produce distributor, is adjacent to the site to the northwest, and a car dealership and a mobile home park to the south of the site. And the community of Keys is located northwest of the project site. The site is currently vacant and unimproved, but does have an existing storm drain basin located at the northernmost portion of the site, which is currently utilized by Fresh Point, and will also serve the proposed project development. And there is an existing easement for shared use of the storm drain basin, which is proposed to remain. Phase 1 of the project is proposed to utilize approximately 3.5 acres of the site and will include a 560 square foot office with a restroom, chain link fencing with slats on the northern and eastern boundaries and on the shared property lines between the project and the adjacent Fresh Point development to the northwest, and landscaping consisting of redwood trees and low-growing shrubs and wrought iron fencing on the western and southern boundaries along the road frontages, a monument sign at the Golden State Boulevard entrance, a customer parking area, and 70,000 square feet of building storage space, which will provide for a total of 96 covered RV parking spaces. And a portion of the remainder of the property is proposed to be utilized potentially during Phase 1 for uncovered RV parking spaces, depending on customer demand. Phase 1 is proposed to commence within 18 months of project approval and to be completed within 3 years. And Phase 2 will include the remaining acreage of the site and will include another 225 covered RV parking spaces contained within approximately 140,000 square feet of building storage area. And Phase 2 is proposed to commence 4 years after completion of Phase 1. Main access to the proposed project would be taken from North Gate Golden State Boulevard, with secondary access from West Barnhart Road, which will be exit only. The project is proposed to be served with public water by the Keys Community Services District for water, and to have a private on-site septic system. And all stormwater will be maintained on-site via the existing storm drain basin located on the northern corner of the site. No vehicle maintenance or dumping services are proposed to occur on site. Building areas and drive aisles are proposed to be paved, and any remaining uncovered spaces would be gravelled temporarily until the completion of Phase 2. Hours of operation are proposed to be 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. with one on-site manager and an additional employee for maintenance on the grounds as needed. However, they do propose to be open to customers through a secured access gate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The project anticipates approximately 5 to 10 customers will visit the site on average per day. Lighting will include wall lighting on the storage buildings and LED lighting at the ground level around the landscape perimeter. And in addition to the proposed RV storage, the project also proposes to maintain the ability to conduct permitted uses in the ag zone. So on the top here is an elevation of the proposed covered storage structures, which will be a maximum of 20 feet in height and will have a stucco facade with roll-up doors for spaces ranging in width from 12 to 16 feet. And on the bottom are just some examples of the proposed wrought iron fencing along the road frontages. So several project issues were identified when processing this project request. First, the site's current zoning district of PD 261 was approved by the Board of Supervisors in 2001 under General Plan Amendment and Rezone 2001-1, Jim Mesner. The PD 261 zoning district is made up of 2 legal parcels, including the 10-acre project site and the adjoining 10.19-acre parcel site to the northwest, which is developed with a Fresh Point produce distributor facility. That was approved by the Planning Commission in 2004 under use permit number 2003-33 Piranha Produce. The Keys Community Plan did require farmland mitigation, which was provided by limiting the uses on the 10-acre project site to agricultural uses only. So accordingly, a rezone is required in order to approve development of the site with non-agricultural uses, as well as to provide for replacement of the farmland mitigation for both the project site and the adjacent Fresh Point development. And this requirement for farmland mitigation has been incorporated into the mitigation measures applied to this project. A second issue that was identified, the project does propose installation of a 40-foot tall freestanding pole at the corner of West Barnhart Road and North Golden State Boulevard, in addition to a monument sign on the Golden State Boulevard entrance. The plan development zoning allows the applicant to propose a sign plan of their choice and does not contain specific criteria dictating signage. However, in the county's highway commercial H1 zoning district, freestanding signs are prohibited except where the director determines them to be necessary to serve the traveling public, where the use could not otherwise be identified. So while there are many examples throughout the county of freestanding signs that are not necessary to serve the traveling public, in an effort to apply more modern sign standards, staff has applied the H1 sign standard to PD uses when assessing sign plans. Additionally, both the North McHenry RV Storage and Park Place RV Storage projects, which were recently approved, and are located north of the city Modesto along State Route 108 or McHenry Avenue, were both limited to monument signs, as well as the Sangera trucking operation, which is located northwest of the project site, also in the Keys area. So the proposed RV storage facility is not serving the general traveling public, and as such, staff is recommending that the signage be limited to one 6-foot tall monument sign and wall signage, which would be also consistent with the adjacent Fresh Point facility. And a development standard reflecting this has been applied to the projects. Another issue that is discussed in your board report involves a response received from the City of Turlock. The City of Turlock response stated that the Keys Community Plan should be amended to align with the entire project site for purposes of consistency with the Stanislaus County General Plan. The city's response also stated that agricultural mitigation should be incorporated into the project and that an air impact and traffic impact analysis should be completed. The project site is located outside of the City of Turlock's general plan area and outside of their LAFCO adopted sphere of influence. As such, the county is under no obligation to obtain city support on the project. The site already has general plan designation of planned development, which is consistent with the proposed RV storage use. Agricultural mitigation has been applied to the project as previously stated, and an air impact assessment was completed. The Stanislaus County Department of Public Works indicated that no additional traffic study was needed, provided the project complete frontage improvements that were consistent with other developments along Golden State Boulevard, including Price Honda to the south, which is approved but not developed, and the adjacent Fresh Point project site. So that requirement has also been incorporated into the project as a development standard. And lastly, we did receive 6 letters of opposition made up of 5 surrounding residents from the area who provided written letters of opposition, which are included in attachment 4 of your board report. 2 of those who provided letters of opposition, Mr. Hawley and Mrs. Turnbull, they also did visit the planning department and spoke with staff after receiving notice of public hearing on the project. And here you can see the surrounding residents who did provide letters of opposition and where they are in relation to the project site. Across West Barnhart Road and southeast of the project site and east of the project site. The opposition letters stated concerns with the project causing increased crime and traffic, with reducing property values, causing light spillage, and with potential conflicts with the surrounding ag properties in terms of dust and spray drift. The comment letters also cite existing problems along West Barnhart Road associated with businesses using the road for test driving, with trucks and other equipment using the vacant project site for parking, with chain link fencing allowing for trespassing and vandalism, and with a lack of enforcement on the county's part of existing businesses. And finally, the opposition letters raised objections to the operation being open to customers 24/7, and to any access to the site from West Barnhart Road, to the phasing of the project, and to the chain link fencing that was proposed. And the letters did also request that the project site remain limited to agricultural uses. The applicant was made aware of these comments and has requested that the project be approved as proposed. And the applicant also clarified that the proposed driveway along West Barnhart Road will be exit only. As recommended for approval, the project site will be accessible to customers 24 hours per day, and the area included in Phase 2 may be utilized for uncovered graveled RV parking during Phase 1, depending on demand. However, the entire site will be paved upon completion of Phase 2. The most recent RV storage facility approved by the county, which was on August 17, 2021, Park Place RV Storage, was approved with 12.7 acres of graveled storage spaces enclosed by chain link fence with slats. And it was also open to customers 24 hours a day. Dust control standards requiring that the graveled areas be treated for dust suppression a minimum of 2 times per year was applied to Park Place RV Storage and has also been applied to this project as a development standard. So we did hold a Planning Commission hearing on July 7th, 2022. During this public hearing, no one spoke in opposition to the project, and the applicant's representative, Dave Romano, spoke in favor of the project and was available to answer any questions. And Mr. Romano provided a background of how the agricultural mitigation requirement was incorporated into the Keys Community Plan and the Plan Development 261 zoning district in the early 2000s, and noted that even the county's agricultural element only requires agricultural mitigation for a change from agriculture to a residential designation, which makes the Keys requirement unique to this specific area of the county. And following the close of the public hearing, the Planning Commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the project as recommended by staff on a vote of 6-0. The project was evaluated for consistency with the Stanislaus County General Plan and Zoning Ordinance, including the site's Plan Development General Plan designation and Highway Commercial Community Plan designation, in regard to the Land Use Elements Sphere of Influence policy and Agricultural Elements Ag Buffer and Farmland Mitigation policies. The project was referred to the Keys CSD and Keys MAC, and no concerns were raised. Standard conditions regarding connection to the Keys CSD for water services have been incorporated into the project's development standards. The project meets the Ag Buffer, and although not subject to the Ag Elements Farmland Mitigation policy, has incorporated agricultural mitigation into the project. The site is currently zoned Plan Development 261, which did permit the development of a mini storage facility, sign company, and commercial warehouse. However, the uses approved on the 10-acre project site were limited to agricultural uses only, as previously stated. Accordingly, a rezone is required in order to approve development of the site with non-agricultural uses. And all applicable development standards from the current PD 261 zoning district have been incorporated into the development standards for this project. And the project will maintain zoning consistency by adhering to those development standards. And staff's evaluation found the proposed project to be compatible with both the county's general plan and zoning ordinance. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, the proposed project was circulated to interested parties and responsible agencies for review and comment, and no significant issues were raised. Applicable mitigation measures from the Keys Community Plan, which were also incorporated into the PD 261 zoning district, have been incorporated into the project to address potentially significant impacts to aesthetics, agricultural resources, hazards and hazardous materials, and noise. So accordingly, a mitigated negative declaration has been prepared for approval prior to action on the project, and the project is considered to have a less than significant impact with mitigation measures included. And as I said, development standards have also been incorporated into the project. So to conclude, the Planning Commission does recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve the project as outlined in your board report. And that includes taking actions on findings 1 through 6 listed on pages 1 and 2 of your board report, which includes making findings regarding environmental review, the proposed rezone, and project approval. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Thanks, Christy. Any questions for Christy? Supervisor Chiesa.
The
It's required that they hook up to Keys Community Service District? That's one of the development,
Yes, depending on like the proximity and availability, they are required.
okay? And the second thing on some of the letters that were received, they're worried about the 24 hours. I know on our last one, that was the one in Oakdale, right? They had the commercial development. Are most of these, we okayed one on McHenry, the old golf. Is that 24-hour access also?
Yes, the two on
That's pretty
McHenry
typical.
are both 24-hour access for customers.
Okay.
And I believe the Oakdale one is as well.
I've never paid much attention to that. I don't understand some, but I guess the applicant can come up and speak to why people need 24-hour access. It just seems odd, but again, I don't want to change policy either. Just a thought.
Okay, thanks, Vito. Buck?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about access to the facility. It's a 24-hour. I'm sure it's going to be some type of key card or key lock system.
Yes.
Is there going to be a Knox box system for emergency entrance if for some reason?
So yeah, it's going to be a keypad entry for the customers, and then there's typically a Knox box requirement for emergency access.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Buck. And did I miss, so ag mitigation is not required here, is that what we're saying?
It is.
It is
It is being
required.
applied.
Okay.
Yes.
This was.
Okay, but it was argued that it maybe wasn't.
No, there was ag mitigation. This was an ag mitigation property.
The site acted as ag mitigation for the adjacent Piranha Produce, which is now
okay,
Fresh Point.
okay, I get it. All
So
right.
it's replacing that and then also mitigating for its own development.
So it was considered a mitigation for previous?
Yes.
And now it's kind of moved to another?
Yeah, so instead of 10 acres, it's going to provide 20.19 acres
Doubled up.
of mitigation
2 to 1.
for agriculture.
Perfect. Okay,
The
thank you.
2 to 1 is they have to replace the 10 acres from Fresh Point, and then they have to mitigate themselves.
Because of this one, okay. All right, very good, thank you. Very good, okay. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. And any questions from the public? Comment? I do have one comment card from Sharon Turnbull. Is that Sharon, is that right? Thank you. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning.
Good.
My name is Sharon Turnbull. I live at 4124 West Barnhart Road. I own 3 parcels of land on Barnhart Road. This July 7th meeting, I received one notice that went to the mobile home park I own there. Nothing come to my home or the other one. The place that's adjacent, excuse me, Mr. Hawley owned 4212. He got nothing. Sam Verdone, who's across the street from the mobile home park, got no notification of it. Neither did the neighbors down, Nassa Minnows did not, and neither did the Dixons to this meeting. And that seems kind of strange, but anyway. We are in the sphere of Turlock because we have a bus system that comes down into the park for the seniors that live there. A chain link fence means nothing out there. I'm in the mobile home park. I'm repairing the fence on the back of the park where the Honda is going to be coming up, the Honda dealership. They cut through that 2 or 3 times a month. It's easy enough to go over, but they prefer to cut it. I just learned a new statistic today. Turlock's number 7 in the United States for homelessness. I definitely do not want anything coming onto Barnhart Road. Best RV, which is on the other side of the freeway. We get a lot of people parking in front of our houses, in front of our properties, waiting till Best opens up so they can take and move their vehicles or their campers, trailers over there to be serviced. We have a lot of vagrants with the AM/PM on the corner because they're open 24/7. Singh, who is one of their employees, now closes the front part of it. The pumps are open because we have so many people stirring around at night. This project I figured was coming, a nice project. I would like to see the first part of it asphalted instead of just the gravel. I hope there's no dogs running around there at night for security because I hate to sleep with dogs barking all night long, which we do not have. As far as the site itself, there's a dusk to dawn light, a street light on the corner of Barnhart and Golden State. that the neighbors on this street have been paying for 20 years because there wasn't enough traffic supposedly out there to do that. We know something's coming. This does not seem like a bad project, but I really want it to have no 24-hour access. All that does is bring in more homeless. I'm running them out of my places all the time. I really would like to see some, I mean, the car keys are fine, but who wants to listen to a man and a woman fighting all night trying to back up a camper? I mean, if you've ever gone camping, you know how that goes. To the left, Charlie, to the right, Martha. It doesn't work. And I don't want to listen to that all night long. And neither do the other people. You know, it's bad enough when it's your own house, you know, trying to back something in your own driveway. I think 24 hours is totally wrong for everybody on that street. We're, like I've been here before, we're third and fourth generations out here. Most of these guys are farmers. But I just really think it's strange that I'm the only one on that whole street that got any notification whatsoever on what was going on. And I know I talked to neighbors and they brought in there, I wasn't aware there was a meeting on the 7th. I was just trying to scramble to get the opposition in there. I really think if this goes through, it needs a block wall on Barnhart side. Something to block the sound. Everybody knows at night you hear everything. The highway's not so bad at night. But when you get like Fresh Point, they were really good about it, getting their trucks at night so the guys aren't those backup beep beep things all night long. They no longer have that. Peterbilt was very nice when they wanted to come out here to turn their signs at an angle so we didn't have that glaring over there at night. It's like a full moon 24/7 a day. Anyway, and then when Ed Garcia owned Price Ford, when he had that sold and they went to build out there, or excuse me, Ed built out there, they turned their doors so we didn't have all the noise coming straight at us. Now we have the Ford dealership coming, or Honda dealership coming out there, and they're nice enough, they're going to be turning some of their stuff, but we have a block wall there that keeps the noise down. You know, I mean, we're just a little country road out there with a bunch of farmers and other people, but I really think the side on Barnhart should be blocked to cut the noise, and I really think that there should be no 24-hour access. All that does is bring in trouble. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Got some questions? Nope.
No
Time's up.
questions. Very good. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Thanks for coming
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, better get that. Can't get out of parking lot. Thank you.
Dave, how are you?
Hi, Chairman Withrow, members, supervisors, very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Top Shelf Mega Storage. This project comes to you with unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. They evaluated this issue. They were aware of them. I think this is a little bit of a unique project. You know, I had the opportunity to be involved with Park Place RV up on McHenry, and there are actually 3 RV projects up there. The old driving range, there's one a little bit further north, there's one on the old Tri-Valley plant, all in the vicinity of Kiernan and McHenry. All of those are gravel storage, open storage. One of them is starting to put tops over some of those units. This is a fully secure facility. It is, all storage is going to be inside of the buildings. The reason that it's 2 phases is that it's an expensive project to construct. So you build those first 96 spaces. People are going to have buildings to put their RVs into. It's going to be fully paved, buildings constructed. If you look at the site plan, the entire frontage of Barnhart Road is going to be 20-foot structure. It was initially planned to be metal buildings, but it's actually going to be a block building. So as Ms. Turnbull mentioned, the concern about a block wall along Barnhart, that's actually what's going to be constructed. They'll be stuccoed, they'll look nice, there'll be landscaping and trees, and there'll just be that one opening for access. The way the facility will operate is Golden State Boulevard will be the main access. It will have the keypad. It will be secure. People will enter and exit at that place most of the time. But if somebody does need to exit onto Barnhart, or there's a secondary entrance requirement for security, there is that access on Barnhart. But we see that as exit only. We made sure that that fence wasn't deep enough for people to come in. There won't be a keypad opportunity to come in there. So the site's intended to operate that way. As the first phase fills up, they'll be able to go right into the second phase. and build that. And so it's a great project. It was interesting. I kind of looked at it, and I looked at all the RV storage buildings that are up on McHenry. You have another one that's coming to you on August 16th. It's in North Modesto. There are about 150 to 2,000 residents of this county within a 5-mile radius of this site. You've got Ceres, you've got Keys, you have Houston, you have Denair, you have Turlock that could all take opportunity to use this. And, you know, most cities have a code requirement for 48 hours, and then you can't park your RV anymore. So if you take it home and you park it, they want it off of the street within 48 hours. So this facility will give them a place to go. How they typically operate is people will come and get the RV the night before, right? They'll take them home, they'll have them home, they'll get them loaded up, and then they'll leave early in the morning. When they come home, they're tired from the road, they park it home, they unload it, and they take it back the next morning. That's typical. But sometimes people may choose to come in early or to come in a little late and pick it up. We see those as rare occurrences, but most of these facilities do operate 24/7. For the undeveloped areas, chain link fence and slats have been typical, but as this site builds out and as those buildings are constructed, it's actually going to be a more solid interface between the two. So we think it's a great project. We appreciate the Planning Commission's deliberation on it, and we ask for your approval. I do just want to mention that the ag mitigation is interesting. I was involved in this project from its very inception when we moved Piranha Produce to this site. But at that time, we set up a general plan amendment and a plan development for the entire 20 acres, knowing that someday it would develop. And actually, the Keys Community Plan, the front corner of this property is highway commercial in the Keys Community Plan, which would authorize it to be developed as fast food, as service station, as something that would be more impactful to the neighborhood. So we really think this is a nice interface between the more industrial uses of Peterbilt and Cisco now, or Fresh Point, and the adjacent ag both to the east and to the south. The driveway that goes onto Barnhart, that's open property, that's not somebody's house. So it's been sensitive to the neighborhood. We appreciate Ms. Turnbull's comments, but we think that this will really be a high-quality project in this location, and we don't have any issue with any of the conditions of approval, and so we would ask for the board's approval of this project.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dave?
Hey, Dave, before you leave.
Yes.
So explain, because we didn't have like a side rendering. You said a block building. They're going to park actually indoors where a door closes. It's going to be completely closed in, not covered.
Yes. Roll-up door. Right, roll-up door at every facility. Yeah, every space is going to be completely secured. The unit's going to be inside the building.
And explain the phasing on that happens.
So that's phase one. So phase
It's
one.
the 96 spots.
Exactly. So that's the 96, and it's actually maybe a third-ish of the site in area. And then if you look at another map of the site, you'll notice that north-south, it's a lot longer. And so that could be gravelled and have some open storage while phase one is filling up, but then once phase one fills up, basically it's a proof of concept, right? Once you get enough people to go in there, this is a desirable land use. The other project that's coming before you, this is the direction that they're moving. Then phase two would be balancing off that area up to the storm drain basin, which Cisco uses, which has to remain. That's there by an easement, but it is on this piece of property. And so it looks like it's maybe 50-50, but that north-south, you can see the broken line. That's actually, phase two would be about double the size of phase one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, any other questions, comments from the public? Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Stephen Morrow. Thank you for the chance to address. I'm a resident of Keys. While I do not own an RV, there are folks in my subdivision that do own RVs, and currently they are parking them in their driveway, so they are not on the street. So it's good to see a facility where they can put them under cover and protect them rather than just basically putting them out on an open lot where they're going to be open to the elements. So I think this idea does have a lot of merits. However, listening to you, Mr. Chiesa, the 24/7 thing, that might seem to be a little bit of a stretch. on why 24-hour access is necessary. I can't see someone at 4 o'clock in the morning deciding, hey, let's go put my RV in the facility. So that may be something to look at a little bit. And of course, I heard the comments from the woman this morning, and she has some valid comments about, you know, some of the issues that could be involved. But overall, I think it's a pretty good idea, and as a resident of Keys, I support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Anybody else? Any questions before we close public comment? Seeing none, we will close the public comment. Bring it back to the board for further comments, questions, motions.
I move to approve the item.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
So I'm going to comment before I motion, before I second the motion. So again, I guess I saw the rendering, but I didn't know about the enclosure. I know Mrs. Turnbull runs a very good operation across the street in her mobile home park, and we do not want to impede on that. This is about as good of a transitional business as you can find for low intensity. And I know the applicant was right that it could be used for a much higher intensity use. And so, again, when we go to transitional use, the new Honda dealership's going to obviously impede on the backside Ms. Turnbull's property, but they've got regular hours, I think, on a block wall. So again, I sit here and I don't want to change the rules on the hours right now because we've done it so many times before. But I always tell the applicants, good neighbor policy is the best, because if people show up and start complaining, too many people coming in the middle of the night, then we'll have to take another look at it. But again, a good transition from in low intensity to give them a buffer zone. So I'll go ahead and second that motion.
I'm just going to add that I agree with everything Vito said on this, and you talk about the potential of what it could be. We could talk about potentially what happened up in Salida recently, and it was going to be a gas station on that corner, and it would have been anyway much worse. So that's I think, like you say, this is a great kind of transition in a low intensity use here. So I agree 100%. Yeah, and if it gets bad with the 24 hour, then you can deal with it. So, okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. Okay, we will move on to item 6.4, conduct a public hearing to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval for the request to mutually amend development agreement for Jaden's Journey. Tara thought she was done.
Good afternoon. I got to say good morning and good afternoon today. All right. Well, good afternoon, Chairman Withrow, Supervisors, CEO Hayes, Council Bowes. I'm Tara Chenley, your Interim Director of Parks and Recreation, and with me at the staff table is Jeremy Ballard with Planning and Community Development Department, and we're here to present to you the amendment of the development agreement for Jaden's Journey. Jaden's Journey is located at 5054 Pentecost Drive in Modesto. The county and Jaden's Journey entered into a development agreement to operate a commercial cannabis retail business, which was executed December 17, 2019. Each approved commercial cannabis business enters into a development agreement with the county that has a term of 5 years. There are 2 fee components to each development agreement. The community benefit rate is based on the cannabis licensed activity, which provides funding for the county cannabis program administration and enforcement of illegal, unpermitted cannabis activities. Another component of the development agreement is the community benefit contribution, which provides a mechanism for the industry to give back to the community. And the Board of Supervisors terminated the collection of the community benefit contribution fee on May 3, 2022, and authorized the Chief Executive Officer to amend the program. The termination was based on feedback from commercial cannabis operators requesting a review of the program in response to current market conditions. The new program will include a menu of options for direct contributions by operators to give back to the community, and participation will be verified during the annual inspection process. Implementation of the program is planned in the next few months. Jaden's Journey submitted a request and paid the minimum deposit amendment fee in January 2022. County staff met with the owners to discuss and negotiate the minimum flat community benefit rate. Due to current cannabis market conditions, the county and the operators of Jaden's Journey have mutually agreed to amend their development agreement before you today. The community benefit flat rate is recommended to decrease from the current rate of $500,000 annually to $268,460 annually, or 8% of gross receipts, whichever is greater. The amended flat rate was calculated using 75% of the average of the last 2 years' gross receipts. The table shows the difference between the executed development agreement and the amended development agreement. Next, the amended development agreement removes the collection of the community benefit contribution fee. The development agreement included in the agenda item removes Section A of Attachment E in its entirety. Staff recommends to amend this section to replace with the language that includes participation in the new community contribution benefit program as reflected in red font on the slide.
So in accordance with Title 22 of the Stanislaus County Code and Government Code Sections 65868, a development agreement may be amended by mutual consent, provided a public hearing is noticed and held by both the Planning Commission and the jurisdiction's legislative body, which in this case will be the Board of Supervisors. A public hearing for the amendment was held by the Planning Commission on July 7th, 2022. No one spoke in opposition or support for the amendment. After discussion, the Planning Commission recommended the Board of Supervisors approve the amendment on a vote of 4-2. The votes in opposition raised concerns regarding the collection of fees to support sheriff enforcement activities. So, to conclude, the Planning Commission has recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the amendment to the development agreement. If the Board chooses to do so, staff recommendations within your agenda report include the necessary actions for approval, including that the amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, as no physical changes to the approved project are being proposed, and then there's also findings related to the development agreement, and we ask that you include the amended language as Tara just spoke to. So that is our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, guys. Any questions for staff?
I just want to ask the question about the Planning Commission, because the two commissions voted against it because of because it was being lowered, the collection, but still based on approximate gross, though, right?
I mean, to kind of condense what their opposition was, it seemed to be that there was just an overall decrease in the amount being recovered by the county.
Okay. All right. And that was their only concern?
Yes.
Correct. They spoke about the sheriff enforcement activity and the amount of revenue needed to pay for that expenditure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing. Any questions from the public? Comments? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board for further comment or a motion.
I only get to say this once. If we had a tax, we wouldn't have to worry about this. I'll never say it again. Never, ever.
I can give you one more
Nope.
chance following this.
No, no, motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Very good. Thank you, guys. You can
Thank
say it
you.
as many times as you want.
It was funny the first time. Although DeMartini was 39 years old, 100 times.
That's right, so don't stop.
And only if he was here today.
Okay, so we will move on to item 6.5. 6.5, conduct a public hearing to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to mutually amend the development agreement number for the People's Remedy.
That tears back.
You are up again. This is the final time, probably.
Fingers crossed here.
Never say never.
That is my hopes, dreams, and wishes. All right, well, good afternoon again. I am Tara Chemley, your interim director of Parks and Recreation. And with me is Jeremy Ballard with the Planning and Community Development Department. We're here to present to you the amended development agreement for the People's Remedy. People's Remedy is located at 1119 Lone Palm Avenue, west of State Route 99 in Modesto. The project and development agreement were approved by the Board of Supervisors on August 25th, 2020 for commercial cannabis retail sales with delivery services. Again, each approved commercial cannabis business enters into a development agreement with the county that has a term of 5 years, and there are 2 fee components to each development agreement. The community benefit rate is based on the cannabis license activity, which provides funding for the county cannabis program administration and enforcement of illegal unpermitted cannabis activities. And the other component of the development agreement is the community benefit contribution, which provides a mechanism for the industry to give back to the community. And the Board of Supervisors terminated the collection of that portion of the fee on May 3rd, 2022, and authorized the Chief Executive Officer to amend the program. The People's Remedy submitted a request and paid the minimum deposit amendment fee on February 22nd, 2022. County staff met with the owner to discuss and negotiate the minimum flat community benefit rate. Due to current cannabis market conditions, the county and the operator of the People's Remedy have mutually agreed to amend the development agreement before you today. The community benefit flat rate payment will decrease the current rate of $665,000 annually to $331,270 annually, or 8% of gross receipts, whichever is greater. The amended flat rate was calculated using 75% of the average of the last 2 years of gross receipts. Table shows the difference between the executed development agreement and the amended development agreement. Next, the amended development agreement removes the collection of the community benefit contribution fee. The amendment to the development agreement included in the agenda item removes Section A of the Attachment E in its entirety. Staff recommends to amend this section to replace with language that includes participation in the new community contribution benefit program as reflected on the slide.
So again, in accordance with Title 22 of the County Code and the Government Code sections, development agreement can be amended by mutual consent, provided that public hearing is noticed and held by both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Public hearing for this amendment was also held by the Planning Commission on July 7th, 2022. No one spoke in opposition of the amendment. The business owner, Mark Ponticelli, spoke in favor of the amendment. Mr. Ponticelli stated that his business paid an additional $100,000 in fees last year, and that without a reduction in fees, legal operators may eventually go out of business. Ultimately, the Planning Commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the amendment on a vote of 4-2. Like the previous item, the votes in opposition raised concern regarding the collection of fees to support sheriff enforcement activities. So to conclude, the Planning Commission has recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the amendment to the development agreement. If the Board chooses to do so, staff recommendations within your agenda report include the necessary actions for approval, including the amendments exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, as no fiscal changes to the approved project are being proposed, and then findings related to the development agreement with the included amendments as stated here today. And that is our presentation. We'll happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thanks, Jeremy. And Tara, any questions for?
I do have one question, because I know you've told me this before, but the greater, the community benefit money, or 8%, whichever is greater, does that come from the Board of Equalization, or what's the reporting agency for that we pull?
So the gross receipts is pulled off of the reporting that's done to the state of California through their tax form.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? So if we would have this sales tax. All right, I'm going to open up public hearing. Anybody from the public? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to correspondence.
This board has received the correspondence and claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Any Board of Supervisor reports?
I just have a quick report, Mr. Chair. I would like to take a second to spotlight some exemplary staff work. Earlier this week, my office was contacted by 3 individuals in immediate risk of becoming homeless. My office forwarded this information over to Community Service Agency Manager Jose Michel, who within an hour was able to find temporary housing for these individuals. My thanks goes out to him and the entire CSA staff who have done exemplary work during my tenure. Jose Michel.
That's great. Jose Michel. Very good. Great work there, as we always have from our staff. Thank you. Okay, any other reports?
Well, Sunday, I've got to celebrate 75 years of celebrating the Holy Spirit with FES Oakdale Sunday. It was a good time.
Very good. FES?
FES, the Portuguese.
Yes.
Yeah, if I said that right. I know there's a particular way to say it.
No, that's perfect. Very good. All right. Those are my people.
That's right.
Okay. The Catholics. Okay. Any other reports? Okay, we'll go to Legislative, Fiscal, and Management Report. Chief Executive Officer Jody Hayes.
So the legislature remains in recess. They're coming back here pretty soon, so we'll have more to report from Sacramento soon. But I did want to highlight news that we received today that was confirmation that our region, we're called the North San Joaquin Valley region, submitted our application for a surf planning grant. You may have heard a little bit about this. I know it's come up to some of your attention, so I just want to highlight what's occurred here. The state of California set aside $600 million for economic development to be done on a regional basis throughout the state. The state requires that that regions come together. So in our case, our region, and they define the region. So our region is defined as Merced, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus County, the North Valley, North San Joaquin Valley, and they require you to come together and to determine who's going to convene this group, how the process is going to work. I wanted to highlight this because in many places throughout the state, this has become a very contentious and divisive process. And in our community, we had a pretty rough start in terms of trying to get this together. We had a couple of folks step forward who really crossed the finish line, but not only did that, but did it in a way that is now gaining a lot of attention from throughout the rest of the state as a model for how other communities can follow it. So I did want to recognize, just want to make sure I get my name right. Yeah, I wanted to recognize Yolanda Meraz as well as Karen Warner. Yolanda works with STEP, Stanislaus County Equity Partners, and Karen Warner has worked with us on their Stanislaus 2030 initiatives as well as other efforts. Tina Rocha represented on behalf of the county, but Yolanda and Karen really helped this process come together, and they received 70 letters of support from partner agencies between Merced, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus. So when I saw that number, I wanted to highlight it. It's pretty unheard of to have 70 organizations come together across a 3-county region and say, you're doing something correct. And this is not what's happening throughout the rest of the state. It's another indicator of why I'm proud to work in this community, and particularly with leaders like Yolanda and Karen as well. So our planning grant is in, should provide us about $5 million of support to then put forward our best effort to gain a piece of that over $500 million pie for economic development throughout the state of California. So that's my report.
Very good. Good news. Great work. Okay, now before we adjourn, we're going to go to closed session, but Tom, you want to let us know?
Yes, we have 2 items for closed session. The first is a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1. There's one case there. It says Jesus Vargas versus County of Stanislaus et al., and that's in the Stanislaus County Superior Court. The case number is CV 19004613. The second item is a conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency negotiators and the union is noted in the agenda. And with that, be appropriate for public comment.
Okay, do we have any public comment with regard to closed session? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.